had come true. But she hadn't expected Cha-Cha Fong Xian Fei to request a meeting. Moreover, if she remembered correctly, the other party was a fan of Jiang Mingcha. She didn't mind making money off Jiang Mingcha's fans, but she wasn't sure if Cha-Cha Fong Xian Fei would break down upon discovering she was Jiang Qianxia. Seeing her remain silent, Cha-Cha Fong Xian Fei immediately sent another 10 spaceships, accompanied by colorful special effects in the bullet comments, and said, please. Jiang Qianxia glanced at the top contributor with over 3 million contribution points. She couldn't help but take a deep breath. She knew Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei was wealthy, but she didn't expect her to be so generous. 330,000. After deducting the platform's share, she was earning 150,000 a day, already surpassing the salary of being a wealthy family's wife. For a moment, Jiang Qianxia saw hope for life after leaving the wealthy family. However, because of her hesitation, Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei thought she was still bothered by the previous incident of not believing her, and even scolding her, so she immediately dropped 90 spaceships in one go. Jiang Qianxia quickly said, that's enough, we can meet, but you need to be prepared. As soon as Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei heard she was willing to meet, she didn't care about anything else and decisively said, private chat. Seeing the livestream room just got pushed to the homepage, the streamer was about to end the broadcast to meet the top supporter, leaving the audience dumbfounded. New viewers, under the explanation of veteran viewers, learned about how the streamer had done a remote fortune-telling for Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei 3 days ago. After disappearing for 3 days, Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei reappeared as the top supporter, sparking curiosity. Could this streamer really be that amazing? Must be a hired actor. I don't believe it. So, Cha-Cha rest assured fly, is there really a bloody disaster today? At this moment, a colorful comment flashed across the screen. It's true. I'm in the hospital right now, so don't panic, everyone. I need the streamer to save me. It's quite urgent. After saying this, Cha-Cha rest assured fly sent a big red envelope in the live stream, instantly attracting all the viewers waiting for their fortune readings. Everyone nodded in satisfaction, with no complaints. Cha-Cha rest assured fly privately messaged Jiang Qianxia and gave her an address. Jiang Qianxia was a bit surprised to find out that she and Cha-Cha rest assured fly were in the same city. Great. I'll send a car to pick you up right away. Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei said excitedly. No need. I'll come over myself. Jiang Qianxia responded, pondering silently in her heart. A few minutes later, Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei asked for her card number again. Jiang Qianxia's phone rang, and the notification of 700,000 yuan being credited left her stunned. She replied to Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei with a few dots on WeChat. Aren't you afraid that I might be a scammer? I trust you. Besides, my uncle is with the city police department. Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei replied proudly. Jiang Qianxia saw the message and couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. 3 days had passed, and TT Fang Xinfei had indeed become more mature, learning how to use both kindness and warnings, first to please, then to caution. It seemed these days had been quite eventful. 2 hours later, Jiang Qianxia arrived at the hospital address provided by TT Fang Xinfei. Thinking that TT Fang Xinfei was not only her benefactor but also an injured party, she thoughtfully wore a mask to avoid startling her. At the door of the hospital room, Jiang Qianxia gently knocked. The door opened, and a young, plainly dressed woman stood at the entrance. Who are you looking for? The woman was slightly taken aback, her gaze falling on Jiang Qianxia's mask. Old Wang, you're here. A surprised voice came from the room. The plain-looking woman immediately stepped aside, and Jiang Qianxia felt a tightness in her chest. She slowly walked in and saw the familiar round-faced little girl on the hospital bed. It was Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei. Although injured, it didn't seem serious. As expected, because of her words, Cha-Cha had been more cautious. Seeing Jiang Qianxia examining her leg, Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei's expression turned slightly awkward. If she had fully trusted Jiang Qianxia's words, this injury could have been avoided. She cleared her throat lightly and turned to the plain-dressed woman who was pouring water. Xiao Xiao, you can go back now. I'm fine. After the 4 is done, I need to go out with a friend. The plain-dressed woman glanced worriedly at her leg, still feeling uneasy. Don't worry, my friend will be with me. Cha-Cha reassured her with a wave of her hand, her tone firm. Seeing that Cha-Cha had spoken so decisively, Xiao Xiao could only leave reluctantly. As soon as the woman left, Cha-Cha Fang Xian Fei jumped off the hospital bed. Although limping, she excitedly made her way to the door. After confirming the woman was truly gone, she turned to Jiang Qianxia, smiling mischievously. You're that shallow pond, many turtles, right? Why do you look a bit familiar? Jiang Qianxia smiled faintly but didn't remove her mask, afraid of scaring the other person. Cha-Cha Fang Xian Fei, however, didn't seem to care about her appearance and tentatively asked, did you notice anything? Jiang Qianxia glanced at her barely able to limp leg and said in a deliberately relaxed tone, I can tell your injury isn't too serious, which means you listened to what I said. Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei recalled the thrilling moment from 2 hours ago. If she hadn't been constantly verifying Jiang Qianxia's words over the past few days, and sensed the impending danger, she wouldn't have dodged in advance. If that were the case, her ankle wouldn't just be swollen, it might have been broken. But that wasn't what she wanted to ask. Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei stared intently into Jiang Qianxia's eyes, once again feeling that there was something uniquely captivating about this mystic's gaze. The hidden smile in those eyes left her momentarily stunned. You. Jiang Qianxia stopped beating around the bush and got straight to the point. You wanted to see me because of that nanny just now, right? Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei nodded, secretly admitting that this person indeed had some skills. She confessed, the things you've said over the past few days seem to have come true for Shasha and Xingza. I was always hesitant, not wanting to doubt them lightly, thinking it might just be the power of suggestion. But today, I really encountered something. As she spoke, she gazed into Jiang Qianxia's eyes and noticed that she wasn't angry at her suspicion. Instead, it made her feel a bit awkward. Understanding her thoughts, Jiang Qianxia said bluntly, so you believed it? What you're most afraid of is that the matter concerning your parents is true. Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei nervously nodded. Jiang Qianxia understood why she was in such a hurry to spend money to meet her. You're a bit naive. Actually, even if I couldn't tell, I could guess the identity of that nanny through your probing. Upon hearing this, Cha-Cha Fang Xinfei widened her eyes, secretly thinking she had made a misstep. Fortunately, Jiang Qianxia's next words gave her a sense of reassurance. reassurance. You called me here to see if this nanny is currently having a relationship with your father? Cha-Cha Fong Xian Fei nodded repeatedly, nervously staring at Jiang Qianxia, afraid of hearing an unwanted answer. Jiang Qianxia shook her head. Congratulations, she hasn't yet. Hearing this answer, Cha-Cha Fong Xian Fei finally breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. At this moment, she finally had the mind to introduce herself. Master, how should I address you? My surname is Jing, and my name is Jing Miao Miao. Miao isn't distant. You can call me Miao Miao. Noticing that Jiang Qianxia had not taken off her mask, she immediately understood. Is it inconvenient for you? Then shall I call you Master Qi Qian? Jiang Qianxia nodded. That's fine. After relaxing, Jing Miao Miao became much more at ease. However, her main concern was still the issue with the nanny, so she asked Jiang Qianxia, if I just drive her away directly, will that prevent such things from happening? In her heart, she actually felt a bit conflicted. Wouldn't this be equivalent to preemptively judging Sister Xiao Xiao as guilty and sentencing her in advance? Right. Now, she hadn't done anything excessive. Her kindness stemmed from her parents, and driving away a nanny without any reason would surely make her parents suspicious. But for her parents, for her family, she had to do it. Jing Miao Miao looked firmly at Jiang Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia scrutinized her gaze and shook her head, saying, the result remains unchanged. I don't know whether you can't successfully drive away that nanny, or even if you do, that incident will still happen. Hearing this, Jing Miao Miao's expression turned slightly disappointed, and she sighed, my mom and dad spoil me. Driving away a nanny is nothing, even without a reason. They would eventually agree, but they definitely wouldn't believe I did it without a reason. Worse, my dad might go question Sister Xiao Xiao, and it could backfire. After speaking, she looked to Jiang Qianxia for help and asked, then what should I do? Originally, Jiang Qianxia only intended to use face reading to provide some foresight information. As for how to avoid certain outcomes, she was powerless. But from Uncle Lu, she discovered another way to use her ability. Although she couldn't directly change a client's fate, she could discern whether their fate line would shift after they made a decision. In other words, she could predict whether someone's decision would be effective. Jing Miao Miao was her first true client, and she decided to be honest with her. You cannot change what is destined in your fate. The only person who can truly change your destiny is you. You've already tried, haven't you? Jiang Qianxia's voice was like the morning breeze, gently brushing across Jing Miao Miao's heart. Her gaze fell on Jing Miao Miao's injured leg, and her heart tightened silently. Jing Miao Miao's pupils slightly contracted upon hearing this, and a spark of hope ignited in her heart. After pondering for a moment, she suddenly recalled Jiang Qianxia's earlier words. You just said that you can see the result hasn't changed. So, if the result really changes, you can see that too? A trace of delight flashed in Jiang Qianxia's eyes. Jing Miao Miao's ability to deduce on her own was far more convincing than if she had explained it herself. She nodded slightly. Then, Cha-Cha boldly began brainstorming, trying every possible way to prevent the outcome of the nanny seducing her father into an affair. However, almost all of her plans were vetoed one by Jiang Qianxia. Jing Miao Miao felt a bit deflated and said dejectedly, how about I give dad some sterilization medicine? Jiang Qianxia, this Jing Miao Miao, with her round and adorable face and soft, cute personality, turned out to be surprisingly radical when pushed to the edge. After saying it, her eyes lit up, thinking it was actually a good idea. With her slightly flushed face, she lowered her voice and asked Jiang Qianxia, Master, do you think there's a medicine that only affects fertility but doesn't impact anything else? Anyway, my dad doesn't plan to have another child. If we solve the problem at its root, wouldn't that work? After speaking, Jing Miao Miao felt increasingly that this idea was feasible. Jiang Qianxia looked at the excited face of the young girl, feeling helpless inside, because she really saw that Jing Miao Miao's illegitimate younger brother was gone. Seeing that Jiang Qianxia did not shake her head, a glimmer of hope appeared in Jing Miao Miao's eyes as she looked at her expectantly. However, Jiang Qianxia ultimately shook her head. She said, I'm sorry, if you do this, your father indeed won't have an illegitimate child, but your parents will still divorce because your father cheated with the nanny. Jing Miao Miao was stunned, incredulous, but my mom and dad are so in love. Unless the nanny took advantage of my dad being drunk, got pregnant with his child, and came to drive my mom away. Otherwise, my dad couldn't possibly. As she spoke, her little face gradually turned pale. Could it be that my parents' love is fake? Jing Miao Miao suddenly remembered a friend whose parents had been divorced for years but always pretended to be in love. Could it be that my parents are also? Her thoughts began to drift, and Jiang Qianxia quickly interrupted her imagination. Your parents' feelings are genuine. If you're certain your father wouldn't be seduced by the nanny, then it can only mean it was a scheme. Jiang Qianxia's words brought Jing Miao Miao's thoughts back on track. She composed herself, her eyes glimmering with insight. Then does it mean we just need to expose her scheme? She looked excitedly at Jiang Qianxia. Sometimes my dad drinks during social gatherings, and when he drinks too much and comes home late, he doesn't want to disturb my mom, so he sleeps in the guest room. Could the maid take advantage of that? Jiang Qianxia nodded. It's possible, but if he's completely unconscious from drinking, it's impossible to cheat. Jing Miao Miao blushed and hurriedly shook her head. Master, you don't understand. There are those kinds of drugs. Jiang Qianxia. Jing Miao Miao began planning in detail. She took out her phone, called her second uncle, and asked if he could get her dad drunk tonight. Her second uncle agreed without even asking for a reason, then curiously inquired about her situation. Jing Miao Miao acted coyly to brush it off, only asking him to take her father home and then wait quietly outside for her. After that, she made a call to her home, and the one who answered was Xiao Xiao, the nanny who had just left the hospital. Jing Miao Miao instructed her to prepare some sobering tea for her father in the evening and also mentioned that she would be going to a friend's house tonight. She explained that her father and her second uncle would be drinking and might get drunk, reminding her to prepare extra sobering tea. After hanging up the phone, she winked at Jiang Qianxia. Master, do you think there's any change now? Jiang Qianxia. She couldn't help but admire this obedient girl once again, teaming up with her uncle to scheme against her dad, and even catching him in the act together. Truly a clever child. However, her appearance had truly changed. Most importantly, but, your dad. Jiang Qianxia blinked. Jing Miao Miao also blinked, not understanding Jiang Qianxia's meaning. Jiang Qianxia closed her eyes, then opened them again. Qian, and said bluntly, your dad might have erectile dysfunction in the future. Jing Miao's eyes instantly widened threefold, her face turning bright red. This, how is that possible? But she quickly realized the crux of the issue. It's Jia Qiaojia. Ugh. Is Zhang Qiaoshan really going to drug my dad? Jing Miao shook her head frantically. Then this plan won't work. She was at her wit's end when a sudden idea struck her. She stared at Jiang Qianxia and said, then can I call my mom back? Jiang Qianxia glanced at her and shook her head. Not sure. Maybe I'll only know once you call her. Getting the answer to this opportunity, Jing Miao quickly dialed her mother's phone number. The call connected quickly, and Jing Miao's voice instantly took on a tearful tone. After a bout of coaxing, she finally persuaded her mother to agree to fly back at night during the trip to keep her company while she slept. Seeing the smile on Jing Miao's face after hanging up the phone, Jiang Qianxia felt a trace of complex emotions in her heart. She was born into a world lacking familial love, yet here, such love is unconditional. Her ability could save a happy family, and that felt good. More importantly, the commission was substantial. So, Master Qi Qian, what do you think now? Jing Miao still hadn't received an answer and began to feel nervous. Jiang Qianxia gazed at her, and after 3 seconds, she smiled. Congratulations, you did it. Jing Miao almost jumped for joy, but her leg injury hindered her movements. After the excitement, Jing Miao took out her phone, ready to transfer money to Jiang Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia held her hand and shook her head. I haven't finished speaking yet. Jing Miao froze. Jiang Qianxia continued, you no longer have an illegitimate younger brother, but you will have a younger brother who shares the same parents as you. She gazed into Jing Miao's eyes, trying to observe her reaction. However, Jing Miao froze for 3 seconds, her face turning as red as a ripe apple. Oh really? Everyone was an adult, so naturally, they understood the origin of this little brother. Thinking about how this outcome was her doing, Jing Miao felt both ashamed and embarrassed, with a hint of worry. She tightly held Jiang Qianxia's hand. But, Master, my mom, this. Jiang Qianxia shook her head. There won't be any danger. Jing Miao let out a sigh of relief upon hearing this and quickly took out her phone, ready to transfer money to Jiang Qianxia. Although Jiang Qianxia loved money, she had her own principles. She hadn't done much for Jing Miao's matter. The money you gave before is enough. Jiang Qianxia shook her head and refused. If you want to thank me, just introduce me to someone who needs help in the future. However, Jing Miao firmly transferred 600,000 to her, speaking in a comforting tone. Master, don't feel burdened. To be honest with you, one of my bags costs 200,000. If I didn't spend so much, I wouldn't even be able to take out 600,000. As she spoke, Jing Miao felt a bit ashamed. If you don't accept my money, I really won't feel at ease. Besides, you have no idea how much you've helped me. Hearing this, Jiang Qianxia no longer refused. To be honest, she now has a bag worth 200,000, so accepting the 600,000 doesn't seem like a problem. After receiving the money, Jiang Qianxia politely declined Jing Miao's invitation to catch the cheater together. Seeing that Jing Miao seemed a bit uneasy, Jiang Qianxia assured her that she could video call her anytime, and through the video, she could also observe changes in her facial features. Jing Miao finally felt relieved after hearing this and reluctantly watched Jiang Qianxia leave the ward. Jing Miao's ward was on the 4th floor. Jiang Qianxia took the elevator downstairs, and when it reached the 3rd floor, the door suddenly opened. She saw 2 familiar small figures in the hallway, froze for a moment, and then the elevator door closed. She silently rode the elevator to the hospital entrance, looked around, and then remembered that the Situ family's old residence was in this area. Aunt Lu had always been at the old residence before, so her home might indeed be nearby. Checking the time, Jiang Qianxia quickly called Xianqing. She remembered Xianqing had mentioned that places like hospitals, which witness life and death, could easily trigger those 2 little ghosts to recall the fact that they were already dead. Aunt Lu's death is not worth mourning, but there are still so many frail patients in the hospital. Jiang Qianxia quickly walked toward the hospital. Halfway there, Jiang Qianxia suddenly stopped in her tracks. Something's wrong. If those 2 children have already turned into ghosts, going back would be futile. She absolutely cannot take the risk, as she is no match for ghosts. She looked up at the hospital, steeled herself, and turned to walk out. At that moment, the call connected. Daoist Qi Qian, has something happened? Xianqing had just gotten off the plane when he received Jiang Qianxia's call and immediately sensed that something was wrong. Jiang Qianxia checked the time and was relieved that the plane wasn't delayed. She let out a sigh of relief and told Xianqing everything about the child ghost she saw at the hospital, possibly going to find Aunt Lu. Xianqing frowned. Daoist friend Qi Qian, are you sure they stayed in the hospital the whole time, or did they just come in following someone else? Jiang Qianxia thought back for a moment. She had only seen the backs of the 2 little ghosts. The elevator doors closed too quickly, so she hadn't noticed if there was anyone in front of them, but it seemed like they had come down from another elevator and were heading toward the ward. Xianqing listened and let out a sigh of relief. If they just followed someone to the hospital, I should still make it in time. But if they'd been at the hospital all along, the chances of provocation are much higher. After speaking, Xianqing taught Jiang Qianxia a ghost-repelling incantation. Jiang Qianxia repeated it once, and Xianqing nodded. Then, after a pause, he asked, Daoist Qi Qian, where are you now? Jiang Qianxia's heart tightened, but she still answered truthfully, at the hospital entrance. Sure enough, upon hearing this, Xianqing pleaded, then I must trouble Daoist Qi Qian to go upstairs and take another look. Seeing that Jiang Qianxia seemed a bit worried, he quickly added, you were born with a heavenly eye, and your spiritual body is naturally stronger than ordinary people in the Xian sect without needing cultivation. Ordinary ghosts can't even approach you. Even if they turn into vengeful spirits, they will instinctively avoid you. As long as they haven't been tainted by malevolent energy, you won't be in danger. If anything unexpected happens, use the incantation I gave you. Jiang Qianxia turned turned back to look at the bustling crowd in the hospital and thought to herself that learning Xiansek techniques was precisely to deal with such situations. She sighed. Alright. She suddenly remembered. Oh, I sent a car to wait for you outside the airport. I've sent you the license plate number. Then thank you very much, Daoist Chi Qian. I'll be right there. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Qianxia took a deep breath and turned to walk into the hospital. On the third floor of the inpatient department, she went straight to the nurse to ask about Aunt Lu's ward. Seeing Jiang Qianxia dressed so elegantly, the nurse asked in confusion, "Who are you here to see?" Jiang Qianxia had to explain, "Aunt Lu is our family's nanny. I heard she got injured and took leave, so I came to check on her." The nurse immediately believed her. Although surprised that Jiang Qianxia was so young yet already had a child, she calmly pointed to the location of the ward. Jiang Qianxia smiled faintly. "Thank you. When I go home tonight, I can stay a little longer at the cake shop you often visit." The nurse's face turned slightly red as she looked at Jiang Qianxia with a mix of surprise and doubt. "How did you know I?" Jiang Qianxia curved her lips into a smile. "Your face is glowing today. True love is near." The nurse looked at her in disbelief, her face full of astonishment. Jiang Qianxia explained, "I know a bit about face reading." The nurse's face instantly turned red with shyness, feeling both grateful and pleasantly surprised as she watched her leave. In fact, Jiang Qianxia not only saw her destined partner but also saw that she and her partner would have 2 children within 3 years. However, she didn't mention it, fearing it might scare her. She turned and arrived outside Aunt Lu's hospital room, standing at the door to take a look inside. This is a double hospital room. Lu Ma's head was wrapped like a mummy, and she lay on the hospital bed in pain. On the other bed, a man who looked even older than her, Lu Ma's husband, caught Jiang Qianxia's attention. It seems this elderly couple is both injured. At the corner of the hallway, 2 small figures invisible to ordinary people were peeking at Jiang Qianxia from behind the wall. The little boy gritted his teeth and said, "Sister, I'll go kill her." After speaking, he wanted to rush out but was stopped by his sister. The little girl shook her head, her deep eyes revealing a maturity beyond her age. "Something's not right. Let's observe a bit more." The little boy's eyes glimmered with bloodlust as he said fiercely, "What are we waiting for? She must have been sent by those stinking Taoists. We're so close to getting our revenge. I'll hold her off, and you charge in to kill them. If more Taoists come, we won't have another chance." The little girl thought for a moment, then grabbed the little boy's arm and said firmly, "I'll hold her off." After speaking, the 2 figures rushed toward the hospital room door. TSK, what a pity. Those 2 little brats are inexperienced. They really should have crippled those 2 vicious old folks. Whoosh. Jiang Qianxia was just thinking this when she suddenly felt a chill behind her. She turned around abruptly but saw nothing. She glanced at the open window, then looked back into the hospital room. An elderly couple lay on the bed, with a man standing beside them, his eye sockets dark and hollow, his body thin as a stick, taking care of them. Despite his emaciated appearance, Jiang Qianxia still recognized him as Lu Ma's son. He was about the same age as the younger of the 2 little ghosts, the child born from Lu Ma's extramarital affair. In the corner of the room, the 2 little ghosts stood quietly, as if hidden in the shadows. "Sis, what did she just say?" The younger ghost looked at his sister with a face full of confusion. A trace of doubt flashed through the dark eye sockets of the elder sister. "She doesn't seem to be one of the Taoists people. Could she be another one trying to harm us?" The younger brother revealed a ferocious smile, showing his sharp teeth. "She even said we should cripple those 2 old geezers. I kind of like her." Upon hearing this, the elder sister stared fixedly at the grinning little ghost. As it turns out, the suppression of bloodlines does not disappear, even after becoming a ghost. The little rascal immediately became obedient. "Don't act impulsively, take another look." Her sister's gaze was as dark as ink, leaning against the corner of the wall, seemingly deep in thought. Outside the hospital room, Jiang Qianxia still stood at the doorway, slightly frowning. She didn't go in, nor did she want to. Just now, when she saw Lu Ma's son turn his head, she noticed some other things. Aunt Lu's son truly reflects the saying, like father, like son, as he has indulged in gambling, drugs, and other vices. Moreover, he is completely different from the outstanding yet unfortunate young man described by Uncle Lu, the driver. From his appearance, Jiang Qianxia couldn't discern any signs of academic excellence or being a top student from a prestigious university. His fate only marked him as a good-for-nothing delinquent steeped in all kinds of vices. In that case, there was only one possibility: possessed by ghosts. The ones attending university are that pair of siblings, and Jiang Qianxia also remembers Uncle Lu mentioning that they are double majors. So, it's very likely that these siblings both used Lu Ma's son's body to attend university. What a pity. Jiang Qianxia thought to herself, since you've already entered university, why not use legal knowledge to take revenge? At the corner, the 2 little rascals perked up and exchanged a glance. Then, as if by tacit agreement, they turned to look at the stunning woman standing silently outside the hospital room, her thoughts echoing in their ears again. "First, get these 2 despicable old people into prison. Even if they don't die, it'll be a life sentence. Then, can't we do whatever we want to them? Nobody would care if 2 murderers go crazy in jail. Oh, right, there's also a useless son right here. Might as well make use of him, no?" Jiang Qianxia coldly stared into the hospital room. Lu Ma's son, as if suffering from a drug withdrawal, was gripping her neck, sneering as he forced her to reveal the family's bankbook password. She took 2 steps back, covering her mouth as if she had been terribly frightened, attracting the attention of the nurses who rushed over upon hearing the commotion. At that moment, Jiang Qianxia suddenly felt a bone-chilling cold behind her. She turned around in confusion, but found nothing. From the conversation in the ward earlier, she had already understood. Aunt Lu's son was indeed a newcomer. She had just seen him outside the ward taking care of them, but it was only because he had ulterior motives to curry favor. When he heard they couldn't come up with the money, his true colors were revealed, and he started choking them. Unexpectedly, the elderly couple thought their son son was possessed again. Seeing the nurses pinning their son to the ground, they worriedly asked the nurses to be gentler. However, when the doctor arrived, he pried open Lu Ma's son's eyelids to examine him. Before being bitten by the frenzied man, he quickly withdrew his hand and, with a serious expression, took out his phone. There's a 90% chance he's using drugs and is experiencing withdrawal symptoms. After saying this, the doctor immediately called the police. Aunt Lu heard the doctor calling the police and, despite her plump body wrapped like a mummy, struggled to leap off the bed. She fell to the floor and shielded her son, who was suffering from a drug addiction episode, like a dead fish, glaring fiercely at the doctor. You lousy doctor. I think you're the one taking drugs. Your whole family takes drugs. Do you even know who my son is? He's clearly possessed, and yet you say he's on drugs. On another hospital bed, Aunt Lu's husband, also frightened by their son's madness, became furious upon hearing the doctor's conclusion. He jumped off the bed, ready to kick the nurse restraining their son. The nurses were all women, and Aunt Lu's son was struggling violently, making it impossible for them to let go. Seeing this, the doctor stepped forward gentlemanly to shield them. Unexpectedly, the old man hadn't even kicked over when he stumbled and fell halfway. The doctor let out a sigh of relief and said in a deep voice, I've already called the police. Whether it's true or not will be clear when they arrive. Seeing the old man fall, Aunt Lu unwillingly got up from the ground. As the doctor reached out to help her, she suddenly lashed out, attempting to slap the doctor. Unexpectedly, with a crack, she twisted her waist just as she raised her hand. She fell to the ground with an ouch, rolled twice, and started acting shamelessly. She shouted at the top of her lungs, someone help. Hurry, someone help. The doctor is hitting me. Help. The doctor is hitting me. Aunt Lu's voice attracted many family members from nearby wards, who gathered to watch. Seeing the growing crowd, Aunt Lu shouted even more vigorously. Squeezed to the edge by the onlookers, Jiang Qianxia looked at the two small figures in the ward that others couldn't see, her gaze filled with confusion. Earlier, when Aunt Lu's son went mad and started choking someone, she hadn't seen these two little ghosts. Unexpectedly, when the nurse and doctor came out to restrain Lu Ma's son, they quietly slipped into the ward. Jiang Qianxia wasn't sure if they knew she could see them, so she pretended not to notice. Then, after the two little ghosts tiptoed inside, they remained motionless until, when Lu Ma's husband kicked the nurse, he was tripped by the younger ghost. When Lu Ma suddenly rose to slap the doctor, she was gently tapped on the waist by the elder sister and immediately backed off. A trace of surprise flashed in Jiang Qianxia's eyes. These siblings don't seem quite like the vengeful spirits Xianqing described, but she quickly figured it out. It's normal, they're just two college kids with pretty upright values. Therefore, Jiang Qianxia felt even more at ease waiting with the onlookers for the police to arrive. Hearing Jiang Qianxia's words of praise in her heart, the younger brother in the hospital room was so excited that he wanted to look at her, but fortunately, he was stopped in time by his sister's cold glare. The police station was very close to the hospital, and in less than 10 minutes, the police arrived at the hospital room. Seeing Lu Ma's son rolling his eyes and trembling all over, the police immediately made the same judgment as the doctor. 8 or 9 times out of 10, it's drug use, but we'll need to check to be sure. Hearing the police officer's words, the crowd of onlookers nodded and commented, I knew it was drug use. I think it looks like drug use too. It's drug addiction. There used to be someone in our neighborhood who was addicted to drugs, and the episodes looked exactly the same. Such a good young man, how could he get into drugs? Sigh, those two elderly people are so pitiful. I heard they were also driven to desperation by his addiction. What? They're still protecting him like this? Sigh, I guess he's their only child, you know. The disdainful gossip of the people around pierced Lu Ma's heart. Her face instantly darkened, and her gaze turned as sharp as a knife, glaring fiercely at the passers-by who called her pitiful. You're the ones doing drugs. I think you're the pitiful ones. What are you looking at? Get lost. She angrily chased after the police, trying to stop them from taking her son away. But the police were not as easy to reason with as doctors. Their expressions turned cold, and they said righteously, if you lay a hand on me, it's assaulting a police officer. Aunt Lu was so frightened that she quickly withdrew her hand. The people around, seeing that she dared to pick a fight with the police just to protect her son, began mocking her sarcastically. No wonder her son is doing drugs. The upper beam is crooked, so the lower beam is bound to be slanted. Sigh, it's obvious he's having a drug withdrawal episode but still refuses to admit it. Truly foolish. Aunt Lu listened, a trace of madness flashing in her eyes. She grabbed the policeman's arm tightly. Officer, I want to report something too. Her eyes were bloodshot as she pointed at the doctor, the nurses, and the people around. I report that they are using drugs. They're all using drugs. Arrest them too. These words sounded absurd and laughable. The police originally didn't plan to pay attention, but Aunt Lu was relentless. The officer looked troubled, and the situation reached a stalemate. Seeing that Aunt Lu's strategy worked, the old man who had fallen to the ground also got up. Although he didn't dare to confront the police directly, he tightly grabbed the nurse's arm and refused to let go. The police were visibly growing impatient and were about to swing their batons. Jiang Qianxia quickly averted her gaze. Sure enough, when she looked back again, a little ghost brother was missing from the ward. At this moment, Lu Ma's son, under the restraint of the police, suddenly exhibited strange behavior. His eyes rolled back, and he abruptly pushed the police away, rushing to Lu Ma. Raising his handcuffed hands, he pointed at Lu Ma and said clearly, I want to report her. She killed someone. A person experiencing drug withdrawal symptoms has no credibility in their words. Earlier, when the police arrived, the nurse confirmed that he had been choking his parents for money. Everyone was sighing over how the elderly couple had raised such an ungrateful son. Suddenly, the man, restrained by the police, twisted his face in agony, his eyes rolling back and his body convulsing even more violently than during a drug withdrawal episode. He broke free from the police's hold, charged at Lu Ma, forcefully pinned her down, and grabbed her by the neck, his eyes filled with madness. Why did you kill me and my sister? Tell me, why did you kill me and my sister? And you even angered my mom to death, you murderer. Tell me, tell me. This man possessed astonishing strength. Even several police officers couldn't pull him off Luma. They had no choice but to strike his head hard with batons. However, the man's head merely swayed and bounced back, reacting in a way completely unlike a normal person. He remained fixated on gripping Luma's neck, furiously interrogating her. Seeing that the police were about to draw their guns, Jiang Qianxia sighed inwardly. Sigh, I thought the little brat came to make Aunt Lu confess, but it turns out he wanted her to die at the hands of her own son. The man in his frenzy suddenly froze, his bloodshot eyes unnaturally shifting to his sister, who was coldly watching him from the side. He abruptly withdrew his hand. Aunt Lu, who had barely caught her breath, clutched her bruised neck, her eyes filled with terror as she looked at her deranged son. Yesterday, she was injured by her son, but every time he went berserk before, his eyes always showed a struggle, and she could tell that her son didn't truly want to kill her. But this time, her son's eyes were filled with hatred, as if he wanted to eat her flesh and drink her blood, with no sign of struggle at all. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed the police. She suppressed her fear and stepped forward to protect her son. You all saw it. My son isn't on drugs. He's just possessed. The police and passersby were all shocked by her selfless maternal love. In full view of everyone, he wanted to kill her, yet she was still protecting him. Because of Luma's original injuries combined with a new wound on her neck, she appeared very pitiful, and for a moment, the police truly hesitated to act directly. However, the son she was protecting suddenly flung her hand away. Who's your son? My mom is Zhang Xinlan. Luma was stunned, and the police quickly restrained her son again. This time, Luma did not jump up like a lioness. She was still thinking about what her son had just said. Her son couldn't possibly know Zhang Xinlan. That wretch Zhang Xinlan died when her son still couldn't speak. Already paranoid from the guilt of murder, Luma instantly recalled her son's gaze just now. That was not the look one gives their mother. It was clearly the venomous glare of someone staring at their mortal enemy. Luma shivered and was about to cast the distracting thoughts out of her mind when she suddenly saw a small figure. It was a little girl who often appeared in her dreams during the dead of night. She appeared beside her son. Aunt Lu's pupils contracted, and just as she was about to rush over to protect her son, she suddenly saw the little girl reach out her hand, gently touch her son's head, and call him little brother. Aunt Lu's blood instantly ran cold. She gritted her teeth, rubbed her eyes, and then saw the ferocious expression on the son she had protected for over 30 years calm down, and he even called the little girl big sister. In an instant, Aunt Lu's eyes widened with rage, and she immediately thought of Jiang Qianxia. The matter of the Jiang family taking home the wrong daughter was not made public, but Zhu Jing knew about it and had told Aunt Lu. After Aunt Lu found out, she naturally gloated about it in private for quite some time, and now, she suddenly thought of herself. She deliberately let Zhang Xinlan discover her pregnancy and intentionally chose to give birth at the same hospital as her. To infuriate her, she even opted for a cesarean section on the day Zhang Xinlan had her episode, just so her son would be born on the same day as her. Although she paid a huge price for it, Zhang Xinlan was indeed angered to death by her. Could it be that after she fell unconscious, her son was swapped? Or did the doctor make a mistake? Recalling that the two wards were deliberately chosen to be adjacent, Luma's face instantly turned extremely unpleasant. She took a deep breath and scrutinized her son's face. For some reason, she had originally thought her son resembled her in every way, but at this moment, he seemed to resemble that wretched Zhang Xinlan in every aspect. At this very moment, her son turned his head to look at the old man again. Dear Dad, have you always known that I am Shao Jia? Aunt Lu glared fiercely. Shao Jia. Her son is called Tang Jiazong. Zhang Xinlan's son is Tang Jiajia. Hearing his son's words, Luma's husband revealed a guilty look. He had long noticed his son's unusual behavior, especially whenever his son displayed extraordinary talents. A sense of foreboding would arise in his heart. When his son brought him glory, he suddenly realized he regretted it. If only he had known earlier and kept his son back then. Even worse, his daughter also began to show talent. She wanted to wear women's clothing and put on lipstick. At first, he thought about finding a Taoist priest to deal with her, but he worried the priest might take this outstanding younger son away as well, so he kept delaying the matter. Later, he discovered that his daughter was equally outstanding. It didn't matter anymore. After all, both siblings were dead, and the glory they earned was only for the small clan. He thought to himself, even if they were ghosts, they wouldn't harm him, their father. Over the years, nothing had happened, and his courage grew. He wasn't afraid at all. He even planned to comfort his son in the name of a father when Tang Jiajia revealed his identity. However, he momentarily forgot about Luma beside him. As soon as Shao Jia came out of his mouth, and before he could think of comforting words, Luma pounced on him fiercely, slapping him hard. Tang Yaozu, you old scoundrel, how dare you deceive me? The one in front of her trying to kill her was indeed not her son. Back then, she had deliberately chosen 2 adjacent hospital rooms, but it turned out that Tang Yaozu had known all along. It seemed he had switched the sons. Aunt Lu dared not think further. Remembering how she had treated that pair of siblings back then, her heart trembled. If the one who had died was truly her son, then it was she who had personally killed him. No. Aunt Lu glared venomously at the old man beneath her, who was too crushed to speak. It was all his fault. It's you. You killed my son. The stunned Tang Yaozu originally wanted to remind her, but he was so overwhelmed that he couldn't catch his breath, and his anger flared up. Seizing a moment between the blows, he muttered, if anyone caused it, it was you. He was referring to the son's drug addiction, which was all indulged by Luma. However, this sentence fell on Luma's ears as an admission. He really swapped her and Zhang Xinlan's son, so she really killed her own biological son with her own hands. P.S. Dear ones, please leave a 5-star review and urge for updates. Thank you all. Luma's tears instantly burst out as she frantically punched and kicked. In her fury, she even slammed her forehead fiercely against the old man's face, causing blood to gush out immediately. The police struggled with all their might to pull her away. Tang Yaozu, are you even human? You actually actually killed your own son. You murderer. Her voice was deafening. Whoa. The onlookers and police officers all perked up their ears, their eyes fixed on this dramatic confrontation. Seeing her so frenzied and reckless in her retaliation, Tang Yaozu's anger erupted instantly. He leapt forward and swung his fist toward Lu Ma. This time, no one stopped him, and he successfully landed a kick on her. Taking advantage of the police's inattention, he mounted Lu Ma, raised his fist, and slammed it down hard, cursing as he did. You venomous woman. You're the murderer. It was you who killed my precious daughter and son. My Xiao Jia and Xiao and I were both killed by you. The surrounding police officers looked at each other, their expressions gradually turning serious. Take them all back. Well, this is great. The whole family of 3 is going to be escorted back to the police station together. Jiang Qianxia watched the family of 3 being escorted out of the hospital, feeling a bit regretful in her heart. Although she had already known the outcome from the younger ghost brother's report, she could never learn the details. Now that this scene disappeared before her eyes, she felt it was a pity. Many passersby around her shared the same thoughts, and one even shamelessly chased after the police, asking, "Officer, we've also been reported for drug use. Should we go along for an investigation too?" Immediately, the onlookers chimed in one after another. Yeah, we've all been reported. Why not check us too? Exactly, we're not afraid. Let's just go through the process. Jiang Qianxia listened and silently joined the group of people wanting to undergo a drug test. The police encountered, for the first time, a group of people voluntarily requesting a drug test. Clearly, these people were just trying to join the commotion, and the officers' expressions immediately darkened. Step aside. Blocking the way is obstructing an investigation. You can come with me, but if you obstruct official duties, it's 5 days of detention. Who wants to go first? As soon as the officer finished speaking, the crowd quickly dispersed. Jiang Qianxia, who was a step too slow, was instantly exposed to the police's line of sight. The police gave her a once-over and couldn't help but add, "You're a young girl. Why are you so nosy, joining these law-ignorant uncles and aunties to stir up trouble?" Jiang Qianxia innocently pouted. "Oh, it's like this. This Aunt Lu is our family's nanny. I came to visit her, but I didn't expect to witness this scene." Before the police could react, the half-conscious Aunt Lu was jolted awake upon hearing her words. She widened her eyes and pointed at Jiang Qianxia. "Officer, I want to report her. She abuses children." The people around immediately burst into an uproar. This old woman must be crazy. She just says whatever comes to her mind. Exactly. The employer kindly came to see her, and it's already shocking enough to find out she's a murderer, but now she's accusing him of abusing his own son. Aunt Lu heard these words, rolled her eyes, and shouted loudly, "She's not our young master's biological mother. She's a stepmother. What good can come from a stepmother?" These words silenced those who had been speaking up for Jiang Qianxia. Looking at her impressive attire and hearing Lu Ma mention the little young master, everyone immediately began to doubt Jiang Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia blinked innocently and cast a pleading look at the police. "How about I accept an investigation?" The police officer who had just advised her showed a hint of suspicion in his eyes, clearly not suspecting her of child abuse, but rather wondering if she wanted to follow them to the station for gossip. "What investigation are you accepting? Where do you live?" Before she could speak, Lu Ma eagerly reported her address. The police took notes and glanced at Jiang Qianxia. "We will arrange a community visit later, so you don't need to go to the police station." Sure enough, a look of disappointment appeared on Jiang Qianxia's face. The police officer, both exasperated and amused, couldn't help but laugh. He scanned the curious gazes around him. "Everyone, rest assured. If the situation is really that serious, we will release the case details on the official police account. You can follow it there." Upon hearing this, someone actually asked the police about the official account, and many people started following it. The police were utterly helpless against this group of people obsessed with gossip. Watching the ghost of the little girl follow Lu Ma and her family of 3 as they left the hospital, Jiang Qianxia quickly took out her phone and dialed Xuanqing's number. "Where are you now?" When Xuanqing received the call, his heart suddenly tightened, thinking something had gone wrong. He asked urgently, "What happened to Daoist Qiqian? Did something happen?" "Don't be afraid, I'm coming right away." A trace of regret appeared on his face, thinking that he shouldn't have let Daoist Qiqian go upstairs. Facing those 2 ferocious evil spirits was by no means an ordinary challenge. However, Jiang Qianxia responded nonchalantly, "No, the matter has already been resolved." Xuanqing was stunned for a moment. What? Could it be that Daoist Qiqian had brilliantly used the ghost banishing incantation he taught to easily subdue the 2 vengeful spirits? Just as he was stunned, Jiang Qianxia said faintly, "Those 2 little brats called the police?" Xuanqing was taken aback, a thought flashing through his mind. "They've all materialized? Then it's dangerous." "No, they haven't materialized." Jiang Qianxia quickly recounted to him how the little ghosts possessed someone to call the police. After listening, Xuanqing frowned deeply. Something's not right. Jiang Qianxia asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Logically, since they haven't turned into vengeful spirits and are still in the state of children unaware of their own deaths, they should be very dull, but she immediately thought of the little girl who kicked Aunt Lu's waist and was still smirking, as well as the mischievous younger brother who became obedient with just a glance from his sister. She instantly understood what Xuanqing meant. After a brief pause, she said, "Could it be that these 2 little ghosts went to college?" This. Xuanqing was also stunned. The rare genius of the Xian sect had unexpectedly fallen into a blind spot. He had never attended college. His master had kicked him down the mountain, not only to let him experience the world but also intending for him to enroll in college. Yet, he still hadn't gone to register. However, Xuanqing then told Jiang Qianxia that they needed to go to the police station. Jiang Qianxia's eyes lit up. "What do you mean?" Xuanqing noticed the excitement in her tone but couldn't discern the reason. Still, he replied truthfully, "Daoist Qiqian, you mentioned that those 2 little ghosts possessed the criminal's son and personally reported the crime. However, once they arrived at the police station, they would be stopped outside." When Jiang Qianxia and Xuanqing arrived at the police station, the 2 little ghosts Xuanqing had mentioned had already been stopped outside and were nowhere to be found. The Tang family patriarch recanted his testimony. The argument between Lu Ma and Tang Yaozu exposed too much information, and the police have already launched an investigation. This information is now of no use. The drug test results for Tang Jiaozhong are out, confirming drug use. The family of 3 is currently detained at the police station. When Jiang Qianxia came over to inquire about the situation, the police officer who had previously advised her remembered that she mentioned Lu Ma was her family's nanny. Without hiding anything, the officer informed Jiang Qianxia of an unfortunate piece of news. Back then, the case of the siblings falling from the building was not reported and was treated as an accident. The statute of limitations for intentional homicide is usually 20 years. Since the murder committed by Lu Ma and her husband occurred over 20 years ago, pursuing the case would require approval from the Supreme Court. Jiang Qianxia looked stunned, and the police officer comforted her. If the murder circumstances are particularly heinous, the Supreme Court is very likely to approve it. We've already sent people to investigate, but since nearly 30 years have passed, evidence might be hard to find. After Jiang Qianxia and Xian Qing left the police station, they searched everywhere but still couldn't find any trace of those 2 little ghosts. One had just arrived in this world, and the other had just come down from the mountain, so both were a bit confused about the statute of limitations for murder cases being only 20 years. Helplessly exchanged a glance, Xian Qing said seriously, Daoist Qi Qian, I'm quite concerned about that pair of siblings. Do you think their departure from the police station might be due to hearing about the statute of limitations and being provoked? Otherwise, they should have stayed outside the station. Jiang Qianxia nodded. Your speculation makes a lot of sense. We need to find them as soon as possible. Xian Qing nodded solemnly. The resentment in the hearts of vengeful ghosts who died unjustly runs deep. Revenge becomes their obsession. If they were provoked, they might resort to extreme measures. And the place with the heaviest resentment is precisely the best location for them to transform into vengeful ghosts. Jiang Qianxia's mind lit up. The place with the heaviest resentment? The place where they died? Xian Qing nodded, looking at her approvingly. Or a place related to their painful memories during their lifetime. Jiang Qianxia thought of Lu Ma repeatedly mentioning the abuse by her stepson, and 2 guesses flashed through her mind: their former home, or the place where they fell. The question is, how can this place be found? Time was running out, and Jiang Qianxia suddenly thought of someone. Uncle Lu. Actually, the person who should know best would be the steward of the Situ family's old residence. However, the owner of the old residence didn't like the original owner very much, and the steward was also unwilling to show Jiang Qianxia any respect. So, Jiang Qianxia directly dialed Uncle Lu's number. Receiving a call from Jiang Qianxia, Uncle Lu was pleasantly surprised. After hearing the purpose of the call, he felt slightly disappointed but quickly managed to find the information Jiang Qianxia wanted. After informing Jiang Qianxia of Aunt Lu's former home address, Uncle Lu hesitated, as if wanting to say something but stopping himself. Seeing Xian Qing beside her with an innocent expression, Jiang Qianxia nodded. Don't worry, if everything goes smoothly today, I can come over after I'm done. After giving Aunt Lu's address to the driver, Jiang Qianxia told Xian Qing about the suspicion that Uncle Lu's daughter might have been involved in a ghost marriage. Xian Qing frowned upon hearing this. If the birth date and time were given by a blood relative elder, it might be a bit troublesome. However, if that woman is already pregnant, it indicates she had another marriage before the ghost marriage, which makes it easier to resolve. Once things here are settled, we can go take a look together. Jiang Qianxia raised her eyebrows and gave Xian Qing a deep look. This future leader of the Xian sect is indeed simple and kind-hearted. He even took the initiative before she started deceiving him. Xian Qing has spent years cultivating in the mountains and has seen few women, let alone someone as beautiful as Jiang Qianxia. When she glanced at him, his face involuntarily turned slightly red. He stiffly took a step back. Daoist friend Qi Qian, why are you looking at me like that? This flustered appearance, like a monk encountering a female demon, amused Jiang Qianxia. She shook her head and returned Xian Qing's earlier words to him. Nothing, just thought you were also a soft-hearted and kind person. Soon, the 2 arrived in front of an apartment building in the old district. Due to the passage of time, Jiang Qianxia only managed to find out the name of the neighborhood. She asked some elderly residents in the neighborhood about the incident of the 2 siblings falling from the building years ago. Several informed seniors immediately gathered around her, eagerly recounting the details of what had happened. Jiang Qianxia expressed her gratitude, exchanged a glance with Xian Qing, and quickly headed to the specified location. Before the 2 could approach the building where the fall occurred, their steps suddenly halted. Xian Qing took out a compass, its needle spinning rapidly as if trying to break free. He gently tilted the compass, and the needle swiftly pointed to the rooftop, seemingly trembling. When he turned around, he saw Jiang Qianxia had been looking up at the rooftop for an unknown amount of time. Even more terrifying was the reflection of swirling black smoke in her eyes. Xian Qing's heart tightened. He pulled out a talisman and chanted a spell softly. With a whoosh, the talisman paper instantly ignited, flames dancing in his hand and illuminating his face. Gradually, thick black smoke began to appear in his eyes. There's no time, Daoist Qi Qian. They're about to transform into vengeful spirits. Xian Qing's voice was urgent. Jiang Qianxia froze for a moment. What should we do then? Realizing that Jiang Qianxia had not yet truly practiced cultivation, Xian Qing gritted his teeth and handed her a new incantation and a golden bell. I'll go up to stop them. If anything unexpected happens, shake this golden bell 3 times. The situation had spiraled out of Jiang Qianxia's control. She took the golden bell, gazing deeply at the young man before her, whose brows carried an air of compassion for the world. After confirming that he was still the future leader of the Xian sect, she nodded firmly. All right. Immediately, she watched as Xian Qing slapped something onto his leg. With a few leaps, he stepped on the windows of the buildings, scaling walls and rooftops, heading straight to the top floor. The old residential building was only 6 stories high, but his movements were as light as a swallow, his jumping ability far surpassing that of ordinary people. So this is the Xian sect? Jiang Qianxia was shaken, her eyes fixed on Xuanqing's figure. However, she inexplicably felt as though 2 cold, sinister gazes were directed at her from within the black smoke on the rooftop. At that moment, Xuanqing had already charged into the smoke, engaging in combat with the 2 shadows. Jiang Qianxia could only look up from downstairs, ready to shake the golden bell as Xuanqing was in danger. At this moment, the grandmother who had spoken to Jiang Chanxia earlier saw her standing motionless downstairs, gazing intently at the rooftop with an unusually serious expression. Following her gaze, the grandmother found the rooftop completely empty. The grandmother shook her head and walked away in confusion. The unexpected happened like a violent storm. Daoist Ji Qian, Xianqing upstairs suddenly shouted, and Jiang Qianxia hurriedly chanted a spell and shook the golden bell. But it was all too late. Upstairs, the half-gostified siblings split up, the sister entangling Xianqing while the brother charged downstairs. The ferocious ghost brother, his face twisted, lunged at Jiang Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia recited the golden bell spell in one breath and quickly followed it with the ghost banishing spell taught by Xianqing. Bang! The ghost brother was flung away by an invisible force 1 meter away from Jiang Qianxia. He froze for a moment, then roared angrily and charged again. Jiang Qianxia was surprised by the power of the ghost banishing spell and hurriedly recited it again. The ghost brother was flung away once more but remained relentless, continuing to pounce. Jiang Qianxia chants the spell again. On the top floor, Xianqing, who was being held back by the ghost sister, was extremely nervous. He frantically pulled out magical artifacts, trying to subdue the ghost sister and save Jiang Qianxia. Suddenly, he caught sight of the scene where the ghost brother was repelled, and his heart jolted. He was already a rare genius in the Xian sect, and the barrier that repelled the fierce ghost before him was created using the ghost-repelling spell he had taught. Xianqing was astonished and couldn't contain his shock. Such talent was truly breathtaking. Momentarily distracted by shock, the ghostly claw advanced a few inches closer, but after confirming Jiang Qianxia's safety, his gaze instantly hardened, and he swiftly pushed the claw back a meter away. While the standoff continued upstairs, downstairs the ghostly figure repeatedly bounced back. After holding on for about 10 minutes, a middle-aged man, who seemed to appear out of nowhere, walked straight up to Jiang Qianxia. He noticed the ghostly younger brother repeatedly bouncing back in front of Jiang Qianxia and stared in surprise at this unfamiliar face. Without a trace of hesitation, he threw out an object, instantly subduing the ghostly younger brother. Then, with a movement style different from Xianqing's, he leapt upward, reaching the rooftop directly. Jiang Qianxia let out a sigh of relief, looking at the ghostly younger brother who was restrained, his face full of unwillingness and resentment. She had thought Xianqing was safe because he could find reinforcements. This reinforcer was clearly no ordinary person, but an important figure in the Xian sect. Not long after, the middle-aged man came downstairs together with Xianqing, waving his hand to place the controlled ghost sister next to ghost brother. A strange thing happened. The siblings both glared angrily at Jiang Qianxia. The middle-aged man noticed this, his eyes slightly startled, and turned to Jiang Qianxia. Which family are you from? Why haven't I seen you before? So young, yet able to transform an ordinary ghost banishing spell into a barrier. Such extraordinary talent is truly astonishing. More importantly, her stunning appearance is absolutely unforgettable. Seeing the middle-aged man's gaze, Xianqing knew that Jiang Qianxia's talent could no longer be hidden. He sighed inwardly and thought to himself, I'm sorry, master. Then, he introduced the two to each other. The middle-aged man's name was Wenji, the master of the Tiangang sect. Upon learning that Jiang Qianxia had not yet joined any sect, Wenji's eyes lit up with excitement as he looked at her. Are you interested in joining my Tiangang sect? I will personally teach you. If you excel, you will become the next sect leader of Tiangang sect. Wenji's attitude did not surprise Xianqing. Remembering his master's instructions, he quickly said, Senior Wenji, let's focus on resolving the matter at hand first. Upon hearing this, Wenji immediately gave Xianqing a teasing look, as if he had seen through his intentions. Such a genius is precisely the kind of talent that the Xian sect dreams of recruiting. How could one not be tempted? Well, kid, I just saved your life, and now you're playing mind games with me? Wenji said with a laugh. Xianqing, his thoughts exposed, blushed slightly and hurriedly explained the situation of the siblings. Wenji, with his fiery temperament, flew into a rage upon hearing the siblings' story. What? You can't prosecute murder after 20 years? Then what are we waiting for? Speaking, Wenji was about to take out a treasure and said boldly, just throw these two little brats in front of that old couple. Let them settle it themselves, an eye for an eye, a debt to its owner. After they finish, I'll personally suppress them. Seeing this, Xianqing quickly stopped him. Senior, you mustn't. The Tiangang sect is the second sect, apart from the Jingxian sect, that does not keep ghost servants. The Jingxian sect refrains due to its rules, while the Tiangang sect avoids it because the fiery nature of their cultivation method clashes with ghostly energy. If Wenji interferes with the karma of the vengeful spirit, it will inevitably affect his state of mind. Although Wenji is impulsive by nature, he is also quite rational. Upon hearing Xianqing's advice, he immediately came to his senses. Infuriated, he cursed angrily, pulled out his phone, and began calling for backup. Jiang Qianxia. So, is this what the Xian sect truly is? Wenji finished the call, his gaze once again falling on Jiang Qianxia. A thought crossed his mind. He realized that if the people he had summoned discovered Jiang Qianxia's talent, Jingxian sect would have yet another competitor. However, Jiang Qianxia was staring at the two half-ghostified fierce ghosts with a face full of confusion. Pointing at the two fierce ghosts, she asked in puzzlement, is there something wrong with them? Wenji turned around, carefully scrutinized them for a moment, and then, with a ferocious expression fixed on Jiang Qianxia and her brother, suddenly furrowed his brows. He let out a surprised huh, walked around the two fierce ghosts, his gaze sharpened, and he gathered strength in his palm, ready to strike. The next moment, Jiang Qianxia saw Wenji leap into the air and suddenly deliver a powerful strike towards something above the heads of the two fierce ghosts. A thin thread was instantly severed and vanished like lightning. When Wenji landed again, Jiang Qianxia was astonished to find that the sibling ghosts' expressions were gradually calming down. Wenji frowned, they'd been controlled. Xianqing was not surprised upon hearing this. He had already noticed something from Wenji's actions and asked, Senior, can you tell who it is? Wenji shook his head. It doesn't seem like a familiar method. It could be someone hiding their identity, or perhaps a rogue cultivator. Under Xianqing's explanation, Jiang Qianxia finally understood. It turned out that the siblings had long been targeted by people from the mystic sect. The act of calling the police was probably instigated by someone behind the scenes, and that person was clearly no ordinary individual. Being able to to restore the normal consciousness of spirits before they turned into vengeful ghosts is not something just anyone could achieve. However, perhaps it was also due to his profound understanding of metaphysics that he failed to anticipate the statute of limitations for murder under the law. Wenji frowned slightly. With such abilities, why bother going through the trouble of guiding these two little ghosts to call the police? Could it be that he's worried they might overturn the heavens after becoming vengeful ghosts? Xianqing also found it a bit strange. At this moment, the two little ghosts, gradually regaining clarity, slowly took in the situation before them and recalled their actions prior to waking up. The siblings exchanged a glance, tightly holding each other's hands, and looked warily at Wenji and Xianqing, then turned their gaze toward Jiang Qianxia. The younger brother shrank into his sister's arms, tilted his little face marked with dark patterns upward, and showed a pitiful expression as he apologized to Jiang Qianxia. I'm sorry, sister, I almost hurt you just now. As soon as the little boy finished speaking, his sister immediately pulled him behind her gaze sharp as a knife, warily staring at Wenji, who had just grabbed them. Jiang Qianxia was stunned. Huh? Is this little ghost apologizing to me? Could it be that they weren't prematurely turning into vengeful spirits due to trauma, but were being controlled to search for clues for revenge? Hearing Jiang Qianxia's inner thoughts, the two little ghosts exchanged glances. Although puzzled, the elder sister continued to hold down her younger brother and tentatively looked at Jiang Qianxia. Sorry, sister, we didn't mean to attack you. We came to look for clues but ended up being controlled. After speaking, she noticed that when Ji and Xianqing showed no hostility, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Jiang Qianxia expectantly, hoping to hear something from her inner thoughts. Jiang Qianxia did not disappoint them. Clues. Did someone witness them being abused as children? Or is there evidence of Aunt Lu premeditating murder? After all these years, is the evidence still there? Then it must be a witness? The siblings were secretly startled, exchanging a surprised glance. When they heard from the police that the statute of limitations was only 20 years, they were both affected. Although they didn't completely lose their sanity, that slight provocation caused them to be controlled. When they regained clarity, it was the current situation before them. The memories of being controlled hadn't disappeared, and recalling that scene made their hearts tremble. With fear, the person who controlled them had led them to the place where the fall had occurred years ago, intending to turn their resentment into vengeful spirits. Next, it might involve murder and bloodshed, turning them into puppet ghost fiends. If that happened, revenge would be out of the question. They would lose their sanity entirely and become tools of the person behind it. Did you see clearly the face of the person controlling you? Wenji asked in a deep voice, his gaze still vigilant. The two little ghosts shook their heads in unison. Seeing Wenji's displeased expression, the elder sister quickly added, but we know that person's purpose. Upon hearing this, Wenji looked at the siblings with interest. Let's hear it. That person wants to turn us into ghost fiends. The little ghost brother answered in a childish yet eerie tone. His words made Wenji's expression freeze. If the other party merely wanted to subdue ghost servants, that would be one thing, but creating ghost fiends was an entirely different matter. If that person's goal is ghost fiends, then they are definitely an evil cultivator. Seeing Wenji's expression change slightly, the little ghost sister continued, yesterday, someone awakened us and told us they could help us get revenge. In exchange, we just needed to serve as their ghost servants for a while before reincarnating. You signed a contract? Wenji frowned. The siblings shook their heads. Without a contract, the deal doesn't count. This shows that person's initial goal was indeed not a ghost servant, but a ghost fiend, Xianqing explained. Seeing Jiang Qianxia's confusion, Xianqing further elaborated, righteous people do not raise ghost fiends. Is that what you call an evil path? Jiang Qianxia suddenly understood, her gaze shifting to the two little ghosts. So, that evil cultivator isn't very strong? Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent you to report to the authorities first? The two little ghosts hesitated for a moment before whispering, no, reporting to the authorities was a decision we made on the spot. Hearing this, Jiang Qianxia secretly praised them in her heart. That's pretty clever. Upon hearing her words, the two little ghosts glanced at her briefly, then lowered their heads, appearing even more bashful. Wenji thought for a moment and asked, then after the statute of limitations has passed, is it likely to continue pursuing accountability? The siblings exchanged a glance and shook their heads. I don't know. Upon learning that the statute of limitations was only 20 years, although they were somewhat shaken, they would never lose their composure without the manipulation of the person behind the scenes. After all, they are ghosts, and reporting to the police is not about relying on the law but rather prompted by Jiang Qianxia's heartfelt reminder. They died tragically, harboring deep resentment in their hearts. They directly turned into vengeful spirits to kill their enemies, and afterward, they still had to enter the Sanzu River to cleanse their resentment before reincarnating. However, if they could rid themselves of their resentment by tormenting their enemies in the mortal world, they could go directly to reincarnation once the resentment was cleansed. But if the police can't catch their enemies, then just kill them directly. Yo, having a human ghost gathering here, huh? An arrogant voice sounded from behind the group. The two little ghosts, who had just calmed down, instinctively tensed up again. Jiang Qianxia turned around and saw a handsome mixed-race guy with trendy silver-gray dyed hair strolling over. His hair was slightly long, tied into a small ponytail at the back of his head. Standing at about 185 centimeters tall, with a naturally model-like figure, the simple black t-shirt and sweatpants he wore somehow gave off the vibe of a runway model. When Jiang Qianxia saw his face clearly, she was stunned. That's right. He really was a model, glamorous on the surface, but secretly a member of the occult world. But he was destined to already be dead. Seeing Jiang Qianxia's shocked expression, Xianqing softly introduced, Baifu, the master of the Disha sect, skilled in controlling ghosts. Baifu's eyes sparkled as he walked toward the two imprisoned little ghosts. He stopped, gazing down at the two trembling, tightly embraced little ghosts, his face full of disdain. Why did you die so miserably? The two little ghosts were stunned by the terrifying aura emanating from him, desperately shaking their heads and clinging tightly to each other. Baifu clicked his tongue and raised his hand to directly gouge out his own eyeball, startling the two little ghosts and Jiang Qianxia. Wenji and Xianqing, however, remained calm, watching as he removed a piece of contact lens from his eye, revealing those blood-red eyes. In an instant, the murderous aura emanating from him became impossible to conceal. Jiang Qianxia watched helplessly closely as the pitch-black aura enveloped the two little ghosts and Baifu within it. A dozen seconds later, the black ominous aura surged violently. Baifu covered his scarlet eye, letting out a muffled groan. Seeing this, Wenji and Xianqing couldn't help but step forward, but he stopped them with his hand. I'm fine. He took a deep breath, pulled a new contact lens from his pocket, tilted his head back to pry open his eyelid and put it on. After blinking to adjust, he took another deep breath and looked at the three of them. These two kids died too tragically. They were tortured to death. As soon as he finished speaking, the two little ghosts, bound in confinement, seemed to be triggered by some painful memory and shed two streams of bloody tears. Baifu sighed, took out a jade bottle from his chest and said softly, have a good sleep. Then he collected the two little ghosts into the bottle. Seeing Jiang Qianxia puzzled by Baifu's actions, Xianqing quickly introduced her. Daoist Baifu possesses a half-ghost king physique. Combined with the cultivation method of the Earth Fiend sect, he can connect to the memories of ghosts. After speaking, he briefly introduced Jiang Qianxia. Daoist Baifu, this is Daoist Ji Qian. Baifu was slightly surprised upon hearing this. You're Jiang Qianxia? Xianqing and Wenji were both taken aback, not expecting Baifu to recognize Jiang Qianxia or even know her real name. Wenji's expression also became slightly unnatural. Baifu's eyes shifted, instantly sensing something amiss. Why would you bring a clueless minor celebrity like her along to catch ghosts? She looks so innocent. How could she be someone the Jingxian sect's master and the Tiangang sect's heir value so highly? Could it be that you're a metaphysics prodigy? As he spoke, Baifu looked at Jiang Qianxia, suddenly smiled, and extended a hand. Then I'll be counting on you, dear brothers and sisters. This remark caused Xianqing and Wenji's expressions to change, their hearts tightening. Jiang Qianxia, on the other hand, appeared somewhat surprised, because Dear Brothers and Sisters was exactly the variety show she had threatened out of Jiang Mingcha's hands. Baifu meant that he would also join that variety show? Jiang Qianxia's eyes flickered, and she lightly shook hands with him. Xianqing and Wenji exchanged a glance upon seeing this, both feeling a bit regretful in their hearts. Xianqing regretted deeply. Had he known that Daoist Ji Qian possessed such outstanding talent and could handle the little ghosts, he wouldn't have sought out sect master Wenji. Wenji felt the same way. Had he known these two little ghosts were being controlled by someone, he wouldn't have brought Bai Xiaozi along. And now, great, there's suddenly one more competitor. No way, Baifu absolutely cannot be allowed to win over this promising talent first. So, Xianqing and Wenji said in unison. So what did you see in the memories of those two little kids? What exactly did Baifu see? He saw that the siblings lost their mother on the day the younger brother was born. The little girl was only 2 years old. The funeral wasn't even held before the stepmother entered the house, carrying a baby the same age as the younger brother. The little girl was forced to call that strange woman mom. She cried while looking for her mother, but no one told her where her mother had gone. Because she was beaten every time she tried to find her mother, she gradually became too afraid to look for her anymore. She noticed that the strange woman only fed one little brother each time. The other little brother cried until his voice was hoarse, and even when he was exhausted from crying, no one paid him any attention. Driven by an instinctive bond of blood, the little girl soaked rice into mush and clumsily tried to feed her brother. But when the woman discovered it, she would beat her mercilessly, while her father stood by indifferently, merely pushing her aside and letting the woman discipline her. After the scolding, she was made to clean the house. At first, she couldn't do it well, but through repeated beatings, the little girl gradually grew up, eventually learning how to do housework, secretly feed her brother, and even take on the tasks of grocery shopping and caring for her two younger brothers. Amid the neighbors' quiet sighs, the little girl finally understood the truth. The chubby younger brother whom her stepmother demanded she care for without leaving his side was her stepmother's child, while the frail younger brother was her biological sibling. Her mother was already dead. Realizing this, she wished she could throw her chubby little brother off her back, because every time she carried her chubby brother out, her helplessly crying younger brother was left locked at home. But she didn't dare to abandon her chubby brother. If she did, both she and her brother would surely be beaten to death. Since she could remember, the little girl had been planning to grow up and escape this hellish home with her younger brother. The siblings grew up slowly, squeezing into a storage room smaller than a bathroom at night, surrounded by darkness with no light. During the day, they had to busy themselves with chores for the family, taking care of household tasks, and even preparing foot-washing water. They also had to endure the stepmother's beatings, which took place right in their tiny storage room. Whenever the stepmother became violent, their father would always find an excuse to leave the house. By the time he returned, the siblings would already be unconscious in the small dark room. Nights without moonlight are filled with their shadows, until the little girl turned 7, reaching the age to attend school. She secretly hoped that going to school might mean she could carry her younger brother all day and leave this house, no longer suffering beatings. However, she never expected that one night, the siblings overheard their stepmother and father discussing something in the living room. The stepmother wouldn't let the elder sister go to school because if she left, there would be no one to take care of the household. However, the father thought that doing so would make the neighbors look down on him. The two argued endlessly, yet the argument was quickly quelled by one sentence from the stepmother. Just say you sent the siblings back to the countryside to study. The siblings exchanged a glance. The surprise came so suddenly. They didn't know what the countryside was like, but the siblings understood in their hearts that life there would definitely not be more terrifying than at home. With a mix of complex expectations, they were so nervous that they couldn't sleep all night. Early the next morning, their father was not at home, and their stepmother, rarely, showed a smile as she took them out to buy new clothes. The siblings understood in their hearts that although they would rather leave this place directly and didn't want to wear these clothes, the smile on their stepmother's face concealed a threat. If they disobeyed, they would be beaten again. After putting on the new clothes, their stepmother took them around to greet the neighbors, who looked at them with astonishment. When she mentioned sending the siblings back to the countryside, everyone looked at them with pity and sympathy. Although the Tang siblings were always gloomy, unlikable, and had a bad reputation, everyone knew that when their biological mother had just passed away, the mistress had brought her illegitimate child into the house. The matters of reputation and temperament, no one could say for sure if it was because of the stepmother. After all, it wasn't their own family's business, and outsiders were reluctant to interfere. Someone sighed for the siblings. Going back might be better. After saying this, the siblings looked at her with bright, sparkling eyes. Her heart softened, thinking these two children were rather adorable, so she gave them 2 pieces of candy. After returning home, the siblings were thrown heavily to the ground by their stepmother. Her expression changed instantly, and the candy in their pockets was snatched away. Seeing them clinging tightly to each other, the stepmother revealed a strange smile. As long as you behave, I'll send you back to the countryside. The result of behaving was, due to years of malnutrition, the 7-year-old sister looked like she was 5, and the 5-year-old brother like he was 3. They were easily silenced by the stepmother. What followed was a beating and abuse more terrifying than usual, ending with the siblings falling to their deaths. Bai Yifu, following the memories, led Jiang Qianxia and the others to the siblings' burial site. After digging it up, they found a pile of bones that no longer resembled human form. They had been chopped into pieces and buried together. After receiving the notification, the police rushed to the scene, where professionals pieced together the remains and collectively gasped in shock. The bones were not only chopped into pieces but also incomplete, with multiple signs of deformation and fractures. Even to the untrained eye, it was clear that these injuries were not sustained at the time of death. Now, all that remains is a DNA test to confirm the identities of the 2 small sets of remains. If they turn out to be the siblings, then the evidence of Lu Ma and Tang Yaozu's child abuse and murder of their own children will be indisputable. Shortly after, the 2 small sets of remains were sent to the identification center. When Ji returned alone from pursuing the dark cultivator, holding a thin A4 sheet of paper, he suddenly flung it out with a sharp sound, his face dark as ink. I estimate that the moment I severed the puppet strings, that guy had already fled far away, but he deliberately left this behind. When Ji handed the A4 paper, printed with the bold words, "See you again," to the group, then, he swiftly pulled out his phone, opened a group chat, and began shouting into it. His ancestors. I ran into a foolish rogue cultivator today. When Ji rattled off the story about the mysterious person at a rapid-fire pace, took a deep breath, and roared furiously, "That bastard is definitely provoking me. Whoever has any clues, I will reward you handsomely." Just as he finished speaking, Bai Yifu also took out his phone, unlocked the screen, and when Ji's angry roar immediately played from his device. When Ji was still fuming, but Bai Yifu raised an eyebrow and followed up with a message, "Count me in. Anyone with clues about that rogue cultivator, you can tell old Wen or me. I'll reward you handsomely too." Hearing these words, Wen Ji was stunned. Then, as he met Bai Yifu's gloomy eyes, he suddenly shivered. Instantly, he recalled the tragic deaths of those 2 little ghosts. They had only heard about and seen the horrific state of the corpses, which was enough to make them furious, while Bai Yifu had connected with the ghosts' memories, directly experiencing their pain, equivalent to personally enduring the torment once. Hiss. Even as the head of the Tiangang sect, Wen Ji couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. Bai Yifu noticed his grave expression, lowered his gaze, and interrupted his thoughts. I suspect this matter is related to that mysterious person. Wen Ji was taken aback. Are you saying this tragedy was orchestrated, and that there might be more than one person behind it? Bai Yifu first revealed a sinister smile, stretched lazily, then suddenly withdrew his gloomy expression, returning to his nonchalant demeanor as he casually said, "More than that, it might even be hiding right beside us." As he spoke, he gave Wen Ji and Xianqing a meaningful glance, then turned to Jiang Qianxia, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. "Miss Jiang, as you can see, once you step into the world of the occult, you will face countless dangers. Having the protection of a sect is crucial. Would you like to join my Earth Fiend sect? As long as you join us, I will ensure your safety." In his final sentence, Bai Yifu's gaze turned serious. Wen Ji and Xianqing were still pondering the possibility that the mysterious evil cultivator might be hiding among the righteous sections. The 2 of them simultaneously cast sinister looks at Bai Yifu. However, Bai Yifu seemed completely unfazed, continuing to smile as he looked at Jiang Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia was at a loss and gently shook her head. "Sorry, I'm not planning to join any occult sects for now." Bai Yifu's smile remained unchanged. "It's okay. Whenever you want to join, our Disha sect will always welcome you. Our Tiangang sect as well," Wen Ji quickly added. Xianqing was dumbfounded. He had intended to say that the Jingxian sect would also welcome her, but he wasn't good at competing like this. Thinking that Jiang Qianxia wasn't planning to join for now, he felt relieved. With the friendship between him and Daoist Qianxia, there should still be a chance. Everyone had different thoughts, but ultimately, they all turned their gaze to the white jade bottle in Bai Yifu's hand. The next focus was on the fate of the 2 little ghosts. "What else can you do? Just take them," Wen Ji said nonchalantly, waving his hand. As the head of the Tiangang sect, ghosts naturally stayed away from him, so he had no need to meddle in ghost-related matters. Xianqing could do it, but he also understood that there was a suitable scapegoat right in front of him. He nodded slightly at Bai Yifu. "Then I'll trouble Daoist Bai." Bai Yifu, who had been handed the responsibility, was not angry. Instead, he held the bottle with a mysterious smile and then glanced at Jiang Qianxia. "Then I'll keep it for now." After deciding on the placement of the 2 little ghosts, Bai Yifu and Wen Ji, who had rushed over like the Calabash brothers saving their grandfather, left. Xianqing, however, did not leave. He asked Jiang Qianxia about Uncle Lu's daughter's situation, indicating that they could go right away. Just as they started talking, Jiang Qianxia received a call from Uncle Lu. On the other end of the line came Uncle Lu's anxious voice. "Young madam, I'm really sorry to bother you. Do you have any way to help me? My daughter is in trouble." Hung up the phone, Xianqing didn't wait for Jiang Qianxia to explain the call's content and was already on the move. "Let's go, talk on the way." Thus, the 2 hurried nonstop to Uncle Lu's house. As soon as they reached the door, a pungent smell of blood hit them in the face. They exchanged a glance, their hearts tightening, and knocked on the door. As the door opened, a cacophony of chaotic sounds instantly flooded their ears. The soothing voice of a middle-aged man, the screams and wails of a young woman, and the violent banging of a bed frame all intertwined. behind. The door was opened by a thin and haggard middle-aged woman, Uncle Lu's wife, Kuyun. She cautiously opened the door, and upon seeing Jiang Qianxia, she froze for a moment. Then, a glimmer of hope lit up her withered eyes. You must be the young madam old Lu mentioned. Please come in. Please come in. Her tone was urgent yet humble as she quickly led Jiang Qianxia into her daughter's room. After explaining her daughter's condition to old Lu, she hurriedly ran out to prepare tea for the two of them. Seeing the worry written all over her face, Jiang Qianxia politely declined the tea out of courtesy. She approached the bedside, her gaze fixed on Uncle Lu's daughter, whose face was drenched in sweat from pain. After a moment, she exchanged a glance with Xianqing, and they spoke in unison. This is not a ghost marriage. This answer made Uncle Lu and Kuyun breathe a sigh of relief. But what is their daughter's current situation? The two looked at Jiang Qianxia nervously with expectant eyes. Jiang Qianxia instinctively exchanged a glance with Xianqing, then spoke again, but this time gave a different answer. Xianqing said uncertainly, it might be borrowing a life. Jiang Qianxia hesitated and said, it might be borrowing a pregnancy. The couple, though not understanding, could tell that neither of the two possibilities seemed like a good thing, and their faces turned pale. Seeing that Xianqing was young yet appeared unfathomable, they hurriedly asked Jiang Qianxia, this is. Jiang Qianxia finally came to her senses and introduced, this is little Taoist Xianqing, here to help. The couple quickly greeted Xianqing respectfully, their eyes filled with anticipation, eager to know what had happened to their daughter. Jiang Qianxia rested her chin in her hand, gazing at Xianqing. I guessed this because yesterday, from Uncle Lu's daughter's face, I saw that there was only one child in her belly, but today there are two. What about you? Jiang Qianxia's words made Xianqing fall into deep thought. He said, I noticed something unusual from the blood aura when knocking on the door. I've encountered this kind of dense and special blood aura once before, which only arises from the borrowing life formation. He paused and caught sight of Uncle Lu and his wife's anxious expressions, deciding not to continue. He took out the compass he had previously used to search for those two little ghosts, recited an incantation, and the compass needle spun rapidly before finally pointing to Uncle Lu's daughter's belly. Uncle Lu's daughter was less than 3 months pregnant, her belly flat with no visible signs of pregnancy. Taking a deep breath, Xianqing said solemnly, there is a ghost fetus. It must be removed quickly, or the real fetus might die prematurely due to the ghostly aura. Jiang Qianxia was not surprised upon hearing this. After all, when she saw Uncle Lu in the morning, he only had one granddaughter. Now, although there seemed to be two faintly, it was quickly becoming just one again. The fetus certainly wouldn't change gender directly in the womb, so it could only be the ghost fetus causing trouble. Upon hearing the words ghost fetus, Uncle Lu's hand trembled slightly, but he dared not let go. If he did, his daughter would frantically run outside, possibly even injuring herself. His honest cheeks trembled, and his voice was low. Then what does borrowing a life mean? Lu Jingdong thought he was already heartbroken when Lu's mother used his daughter for a ghost marriage, but he hadn't expected the truth to be even more cruel. It turned out she wanted his daughter's life, and if it really was borrowing a life, who was it borrowed for? Was it his mother borrowing his daughter's life for herself, or for his elder brother, or was it simply sold to someone else? Uncle Lu's face was ashen, and he couldn't help but ask tremblingly, Master, can it be stopped? If not, can it be transferred to me? Or can you lend my life to my daughter? His eyes were bloodshot, and his hoarse voice was filled with pain and fear. My daughter can't have anything happen to her. She's still so young. After receiving hope from Jiang Qianxia in the morning, Lu Jingdong went home and confessed to his wife about the matters from his hometown. After years of marriage, Kuyun had long suspected that he had a past he was unwilling to talk about, but upon learning that their daughter might be implicated, she couldn't help but unleash her fury on him. But now, seeing her husband in utter despair, she regretted her anger from the morning. Feeling guilty, she held her husband's hand and chose to stand by him, joining forces to protect their daughter. My life can also be lent to Hui Hui. Seeing the couple's resolute determination to face death, Xianqing felt compassion in his heart. He shook his head and comforted them. Don't be so anxious. Things haven't reached an irreparable point yet. After speaking, Xianqing didn't have time to explain further. He immediately recited an incantation, his gaze clear as he looked at Uncle Lu's daughter and paused. Forgive me. Uncle Lu's daughter, maintaining a trace of clarity amidst her pain, understood that this was to save her and nodded with difficulty. Xianqing gently lifted her clothing at the abdomen, placed his finger on her flat stomach, blushing slightly, and solemnly recited the incantation. Gradually, Uncle Lu's daughter calmed down, and the pain on her face slowly dissipated. After confirming that his daughter would no longer suffer or struggle recklessly, Uncle Lu glanced at Xianqing. Upon receiving his nod, he tentatively released his grip. Sure enough, his daughter no longer tried to get up and run around uncontrollably as before. Immediately, he looked gratefully at Xianqing and then at Jiang Qianxia. Thank you. I really don't know how to express my gratitude to you both. After speaking, he wanted to ask about the solution to the borrowed life, but suddenly Jiang Qianxia's expression changed slightly. She frowned and said, I can see the matter of the borrowed life. She discovered that Uncle Lu's daughter's lifespan was decreasing year by year. Even Uncle Lu's granddaughter's lifespan was the same. It seems that the weakness of the female fetus is not just because of the ghost fetus, but also because someone is borrowing her life. Xianqing confirmed his suspicion with Jiang Qianxia. The act of borrowing life indeed existed. He immediately took out a type of talisman paper and ignited it with an incantation. When the talisman paper burned out in the room, Jiang Qianxia saw a dense red glow floating in the air. This was the source of the bloody smell they had noticed earlier when knocking on the door. Seeing the red glow, Xianqing's expression immediately turned grave. He explained in a low voice, this is an extremely sinister life-borrowing technique. Once successful, the person whose life is borrowed will die instantly. The speed and distance of borrowing life are closely related during the execution of this technique. He spoke, looking at Jiang Qianxia. Daoist Ji Qian, can you tell the rate at which Miss Lu's life is shortening? Jiang Qianxia nodded. Yes, from the time we entered until now, about 2 years have been lost. Xianqing heard this, lowered his head and calculated with his fingers, then raised his head and looked in a certain direction. The person borrowing the life won't be far from here. They're in this city. Uncle Lu and his wife were shocked, their pupils dilating. Could it be that the one borrowing the life isn't isn't Grandma Lu? Uncle Lu and his wife couldn't see the red blood light emitted by Xianqing using talisman paper. Therefore, to slow down Miss Lu's life loss, Jiang Qianxia, who could see the blood light, had to lead the family of 3 to flee in the opposite direction of the red light. Meanwhile, Xianqing went alone to deal with the source of the borrowed life. Upon hearing that she had to leave home, Miss Lu instinctively trembled. Having witnessed the abilities of Jiang Qianxia and Xianqing, Uncle Lu dared not hide anything further and quickly explained in detail his previous suspicion that his daughter might have been bound by a ghost marriage. What he had previously told Jiang Qianxia was merely that staying at home could prevent fright, but in truth, it wasn't fright, it was something even harder to speak of. Mentioning such an awkward matter, Uncle Lu, despite his age, couldn't help but blush. In fact, his daughter was silent at first when she returned home. Seeing her father about to talk about this, Lu Hui quickly stopped him, her face turning red as she said, "Let me explain it myself. It's just, as soon as I step out of the house, I feel drowsy and then start having those kinds of dreams, and the person in the dream isn't my husband." As she spoke, recalling Jiang Qianxia and Xianqing diagnosing that she hadn't been bound by a ghost marriage, Lu Hui felt even more ashamed to face anyone. Oh my, could it be that because she just got pregnant, she and her husband were worried about complications and didn't dare to be intimate, leaving her feeling starved? Just as Lu Hui regretted mentioning this matter, she suddenly heard a clear and soothing voice comforting her. "Miss Lu, there's no need to be afraid. Your situation seems to be caused by encountering a lustful ghost." A lustful ghost? The 3 members of the Lu family widened their eyes in terror. Xianqing blushed slightly and nodded. After the initial shock, anger surged like a tide, and Lu Hui's face instantly turned pale. Could that ghost fetus be? Seeing the Lu family panic, Xianqing quickly explained, "No, ghosts cannot make people pregnant. The ghost fetus is actually another ghost. Because borrowing life has weakened the young fire in your body, it makes you more prone to encountering ghosts. Then why doesn't it happen at home?" Uncle Lu cautiously asked. Xianqing smiled, his eyes glinting. "Because your family worships a consecrated Buddha statue." He pointed to the Buddha statue on the Lu family's wall. Kuyun was startled. "My dad invited that here. So if we go out now, do we have to take the Buddha statue with us to avoid being targeted by ghosts?" Xianqing looked at Jiang Qianxia. "No need, Daoist Ji Qian is here." Upon hearing this, the Lu family all breathed a sigh of relief, except for Jiang Qianxia, who had her back to them, staring wide-eyed at Xianqing. Xianqing quickly made a calming gesture. "Rest assured, Daoist Ji Qian's spiritual body is extraordinary. Ordinary ghosts wouldn't dare approach." After speaking, he noticed Jiang Qianxia's expression slightly improve, and Xianqing secretly smiled. Daoist Ji Qian is truly interesting, seemingly unaware of how exceptional his talent is. The group immediately set off in different directions, as Lu Hui and the unborn child in her arms continued to lose lifespan year by year. Jiang Qianxia assigned the driver to Xianqing, while she led the Lu family away in the opposite direction of the red light. Not long after, Jiang Qianxia noticed that the red light connected to Lu Hui's body was shrinking. She then observed Lu Hui's expression and found that the speed at which her life was diminishing was also slowing down. Her eyes lit up. "Keep moving forward." However, after driving for a while, the red light began to flicker. Even though they were getting farther away, the speed at which life was decreasing suddenly fluctuated, as if something was chasing them. Jiang Qianxia narrowed her eyes slightly. "Speed up." A chase for life thus began. 2 hours later, Jiang Qianxia received news from Xianqing. The person who cast the spell had been found. The individual was not a legitimate mystic, not even considered a dark practitioner. Before long, the life-borrowing spell was broken by Xianqing. After the spell was broken, the caster suffered backlash and died on the spot. There were 2 other passengers in the car, a middle-aged man and an elderly woman in her 80s. The driver was the spellcaster. After his death, the car lost control and crashed into the guardrail. The middle-aged man was severely injured, and the elderly woman died on the spot. Meanwhile, Jiang Qianxia didn't wait for Xianqing to take a photo for the Lu family to identify the person. She had already discerned it from Lu Jingdong's facial features. The deceased elderly woman was Lu Jingdong's mother. Upon hearing this, Lu Jingdong's expression became difficult to read, showing neither joy nor sorrow. After a moment, he touched his face, his eyes reddened, and he asked hoarsely, "When was it originally?" He knew Jiang Qianxia could tell. Jiang Qianxia didn't hide it. 1 year later. After hearing this, Lu Jingdong's eyes grew even redder, and then he laughed self-deprecatingly. Ha 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 ha. Laughing and laughing, tears streamed down uncontrollably. His own mother drained him of his flesh and blood to support his useless elder brother, and now she wants to take the lives of his daughter and granddaughter. The most ridiculous part is, 12 years ago, his mother came to him, saying she regretted it, saying his elder brother was ungrateful and wouldn't take care of her. Yet when she came to borrow a life, she still brought his elder brother along. Even a tiger won't eat its cubs, so why is his mother's heart so venomous? Even if she wants to borrow his life, why does it have to be his precious daughter's life? Lu Jingdong fell to his knees with a loud bang, painfully gazing up at the sky. After the incident, Lu Hui and her mother only learned that Lu Jingdong had mentioned Grandma Lu. Instead of blaming him for keeping it a secret, they felt sorry for his ordeal. Seeing him in such distress, Kuyun hurriedly embraced her husband, while their daughter Lu Hui gently patted her father's shoulder to comfort him. Moved by the care of his wife and daughter, Lu Jingdong felt even more sorrowful. He hugged them tightly and sobbed uncontrollably. "Ayun, Hui, I've let you down." In the end, Lu Jingdong did not claim Grandma Lu's body. Xianqing returned to the Lu family, helped Lu Hui remove the ghost fetus, and then told him a piece of news. He might not be Grandma Lu's biological son, because he discovered another type of life-borrowing borrowing technique on brother Lu, not borrowing life but borrowing fate. However, the practitioner was probably an amateur, so the borrowed good fortune and fate could not be fully inherited. Xianqing casually broke it as well, but the borrowed fate has not yet been returned. So Jiang Qianxia looked at Lu Jingdong, who was still Lu grandma's biological son, because most of the fate on him belonged to brother Lu. Upon learning this answer, Lu Jingdong was already numb. He laughed self-deprecatingly. If I really weren't biological, I might be able to make sense of it a bit more. As he was speaking, his phone rang, and a call from the police came through. It turned out that brother Lu had regained consciousness and provided his phone number, asking him to come over to claim the body and handle the aftermath, as well as pay the medical expenses. Lu Jingdong's expression turned serious, and he flatly refused to pay the medical expenses, suggesting instead to conduct a paternity test with the body. The police on the other end were momentarily stunned, then responded. The car accident was an accident. The driver suddenly died of a heart attack while driving. None of the 3 people in the car had insurance, nor did they have any family members. This accident involved no compensation or claims. The family members only needed to claim the body for burial. After taking him back, you can conduct a paternity test if you wish, but it has nothing to do with the police station, the officer added. Uncle Lu gritted his teeth upon hearing this, his eyes filled with hatred. Fine, I'll do it myself, he said coldly. If he's mine, I'll send him back to the hometown and bury him under a mound of earth. If he's not mine, I'll burn him and throw the ashes into a stinking ditch. Before heading to the police station, Uncle Lu turned around, went into the house, and took out 2 red envelopes, handing one to Jiang Qianxia and the other to Xianqing, pleading with them to accept them. Young madam, I know you might not think much of my humble token of gratitude, but aside from this gesture, I, old Lu, will wholeheartedly serve you from now on. You two saved my daughter and granddaughter, who are priceless to me, so if you ever need anything, just say the word, and I, old Lu, will do whatever is asked. Xianqing had only lent a helping hand casually and never intended to accept any token of gratitude, so he immediately wanted to refuse. Meanwhile, Jiang Qianxia had originally approached Uncle Lu with other intentions. Now that things had developed to this point, she had hardly exerted any effort and had no plans to accept it. She thought for a moment and pressed down on Xianqing's hand, which was about to return the red envelope. I do have 2 matters to ask of you. Lu Jingdong hurriedly said, please go ahead. The first thing is, you've been a driver for the Situ family for quite some time, so you should know quite a few other drivers working for wealthy families, right? Lu Jingdong nodded. Yes, before driving for the young master, I was the old master's personal driver. I traveled everywhere with him, so naturally, I got to know quite a few drivers like me. Lu Jingdong immediately understood Jiang Qianxia's intention. Do you want me to promote your abilities? Jiang Qianxia did not deny it. Lu Jingdong immediately nodded emphatically. This small matter, rest assured. There's one more thing, Jiang Qianxia continued. I hope you can keep my identity a secret. Lu Jingdong's heart stirred as he recalled Jiang Qianxia's situation at the Situ family's old residence and immediately agreed, rest assured. As evening approached, Uncle Lu wanted to invite his wife to have Jiang Qianxia and Xianqing stay for dinner, but he hesitated, worried about Jiang Qianxia's identity, and his face showed difficulty. At that moment, both Jiang Qianxia's and Xuanqing's phones rang simultaneously. After answering the calls, they both said they had matters to attend to and needed to leave. Uncle Lu took the opportunity to escort them downstairs. Seeing that his wife and daughter were also going to the police station, his expression changed. No way. He glanced at his daughter's belly, his heart tightening. This kind of an auspicious matter, what if it brings bad luck? The mother and daughter were persuaded. Lu Jingdong thought about it and even felt that handling this matter himself was unlucky. He simply decided to have his wife take their daughter back to her parents' home to rest and nurture the pregnancy and wait for him to finish dealing with it before returning. Kuyun is an only child. Her father-in-law and mother-in-law are elderly but still fairly agile, so they don't live together. His wife and daughter moved over, not to take care of anyone, but simply for a more comfortable environment. After leaving the Lu family, Jiang Qianxia and Xianqing went their separate ways. The call Xianqing received was from someone in the Xian sect. Upon learning he was in this city, they immediately sent a car to pick him up, which stopped directly downstairs at Uncle Lu's house. Watching Xianqing's car drive away, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but shake her head. No wonder he's the future leader. Such a sense of responsibility. While sighing, she suddenly caught sight of Kuyun walking out from the stairs, holding the red envelope she had secretly left under the teapot, chasing after her. Jiang Qianxia let out a sigh. Start the car, let's head back to the villa. When they returned to the villa, members of the residence committee were already seated in the living room, looking visibly uneasy. Jiang Qianxia tossed her bag and coat to the maid, walked over to sit across from them, took the water cup, and wondered why they all seemed so nervous. Suddenly, she inadvertently caught sight of a figure sitting upright by the window working, and froze. Why is the work machine here? Ah! Jiang Qianxia almost choked, hurriedly put down her water cup, and watched as the man slowly closed his laptop and walked over. The community committee staff in front of Jiang Qianxia grew increasingly stiff. A female staff member wearing a uniform and glasses stammered nervously, You must be Mrs. Sidhu. We received a false report and are just here to follow the procedure. Beside her, an older male staff member shot her a dissatisfied glance, then put on a flattering smile and first addressed Sidhu. Rest assured, this is definitely nonsense. Your wife is clearly well educated, gentle, and elegant. The report is obviously baseless. How about we end the home visit here and go back to file the record? As he spoke, he gave Jiang Qianxia an apologetic smile and tried to pull the other 2 staff members away. The silent girl looked reluctant but was still forced to stand up. Seeing that they were about to leave, Jiang Qianxia blinked curiously. What's going on here? Weren't they speaking so righteously on the phone? Why are they backing down now? As she thought about it, she suddenly glanced at Sidhu in a daze. Got it. This is judging people before serving them. Seeing that they were really about to leave, Jiang Qianxia shook her head, clicking her tongue repeatedly in her heart. Alright, fine, leave if you want. Just as well, I don't want to be interrogated. Just wondering how the DNA test is going on Luma's side. That old hag. Sidhu raised his eyes and glanced at Jiang Qianxia, then looked at the 3 community committee staff members members who were about to leave. Suddenly, he stood up and spoke coldly. Wait. The 3 staff members froze in unison. The bespectacled man who had spoken first turned around, still wearing a flattering smile on his face, his shoulders slightly hunched. Do you have any other instructions? Jiang Qianxia glanced at the sycophantic bespectacled man, then at Sitayu, who was as cold as ice and exuded an imposing aura, and couldn't help but click her tongue inwardly. You don't know until you compare, and the comparison is shocking. This work machine vibe is truly amazing. Sitayu's originally indifferent expression slightly softened. He pressed his brows and ignored Jiang Qianxia's inner thoughts, calmly looking at the 3 community committee staff members. I've already called the child to come over. I hope you can conduct the home visit according to the normal procedure. The 3 were stunned upon hearing this and couldn't help but look at Jiang Qianxia sympathetically. However, in the next second, they heard the rest of what Sitayu had yet to finish saying. I do not wish for anyone to slander my wife or my family. Regarding the matter of reporting without any evidence, I hope there will absolutely not be a next time. The 3 staff members instantly felt the pressure of being subordinates in Sitayu's company. Their skin tightened, and their expressions immediately turned serious. Rest assured. Seeing this, Sitayu nodded and sat back down to review the documents. The 3 home visit staff members, with their shoulders hunched, slunk back to the sofa, their postures even more restrained, not daring to let their gazes wander. This was like a conversation where a leader reprimands a subordinate, leaving Jiang Qianxia stunned. She secretly glanced at the man who had just finished speaking and was now looking down at the documents, slowly realizing the truth. Is he angry because I was slandered? If that's the case, he's really too kind. No, it must be because I was slandered, and as his nominal wife, it affected his reputation and embarrassed him. Right, sigh. These domineering CEOs are just too concerned about their image. Fine, considering the 2 million a month, I'll reluctantly accept it. C2U. However, the next second, she heard herself sigh inwardly again. Wait a minute, the $80 million villa from yesterday. Today's side hustle brought in 1 million. It seems being a wealthy wife is truly the hardest money to earn. I must be delusional to think 2 million a month is too little. Forget it. I've been busy all day today. I'm so exhausted I need 8 maids to take turns massaging me to recover. Oh, right, the little one is coming. Shouldn't I pinch him 10 or 8 times to compensate for my fragile, wounded soul? C2U couldn't help but lift his gaze, looking at this woman who claimed to have a fragile soul. Her expression was noble and cold, scaring the 3 staff members into not daring to look directly at her. He was certain these 3 home visit staff members were intimidated, and it was definitely not just because of him. After another moment of silence, the villa door suddenly swung open. Tap, tap, tap. The crisp and clear sound of footsteps drew everyone's attention, except for C2U. Woohoo, the little cutie is back. Jiang Qianxia felt instantly healed the moment she saw the little one and couldn't help but dub a voiceover for him. Situ Xiaoya's little face was flushed, and upon hearing the inner voice, he immediately cast a sparkling gaze toward Jiang Qianxia. However, when he noticed the presence of several strangers in the living room, the light in his eyes instantly turned to confusion and vigilance. His steps slowed down, and his eyes quietly searched the room. When he spotted Sitayu sitting by the bed, his eyes lit up again, and he excitedly ran forward. But just as he was about to reach Sitayu suddenly stood up, closed his laptop, and gave the little guy a cold glance. Then, with his eyes, he gestured toward the sofa, signaling him to go over. Sitayu also prepared to walk over. The little guy, feeling dejected by his father's cold treatment, pouted his small face in disappointment. Yet, he still quietly waited until Sitayu was beside him, tentatively reaching out his small hand to hold the man's large hand, hoping to be led. When the soft little hand grabbed him, Sitayu's face showed a hint of hesitation. He was about to refuse, but as he lowered his head and saw the little one looking up at him, a wave of tender memory surged in his heart. Sitayu's stiffness gradually relaxed, and he swallowed the words of refusal, lowering his head to lead the little one toward the sofa. With Sitayu's permission, Situ Xiaoya's eyes immediately curved into 2 crescent moons. His short legs excitedly led his dad to Jiang Qianxia's side. Finally, he struggled to climb onto the sofa with his little bottom sticking out, sitting between the 2 of them. Once seated, he tightly held his dad's hand, then secretly grabbed his mom's hand. Looking left and right, he finally revealed a proud smile. This is great. Just like what I saw at kindergarten. Other kids' moms and dads are this close too. Noticing the little one's spontaneous behavior, the 3 home visit staff exchanged glances, thinking to themselves, is this home visit even necessary? Clearly, this family of 3 is very harmonious. As staff who had been conducting home visits for years, they were long accustomed to observing interactions between parents and children, easily distinguishing between genuine and fake. The little one seeking out his father as soon as he got home, after all, it's his biological father, was understandable, and the joy in his eyes when looking at his stepmother, without any hint of rejection or fear, even taking the initiative to approach her, clearly showed he liked her very much. There was absolutely no possibility of abuse. However, faced with C2U's cold expression, they didn't dare to end the home visit hastily and had no choice but to brace themselves and start asking questions. Little one, what's your name? The male staff member had just started speaking when his colleague pinched him on the back, causing his expression to change slightly. Just as he was about to turn around and glare angrily, he heard his colleague beside him cut in. Is it little C2 Xiaoyi? Next, big sister will ask you a few questions. Can you answer by nodding or shaking your head? The male staff member felt displeased and wanted to reprimand them, but he noticed something from their expressions. Holding back his frustration, he stepped aside. Situ Xiaoya did not immediately agree but first looked at Sitayu, then at Jiang Qianxia. Sitayu was expressionless, appearing somewhat at a loss. In contrast, Jiang Qianxia remained as steady as a mountain, though inwardly sighing. Sigh, the little one is adorable, but hopefully he won't tell the home visit staff later that I want to eat him. Jiang Qianxia didn't understand why the father and son both looked her way, feeling puzzled. Why are they all looking at me? One big and one small heard this and quickly withdrew their gaze, then they heard it. Sure enough, they are father and son. These little gestures are exactly the same. C2U stiffened slightly. A trace of joy appeared in C2 Xiaoye's eyes, but the big one is cold and unfeeling, while the small one is soft and cuddly. The small one is still better. C2U. The little one couldn't help but glance at her again, then heard her say, forget it. If the little one tells the home visit staff that I want to eat him, wouldn't that give me a legitimate reason to leave the Situ family? Situ Xiaoye's pupils slightly dilated. What does leaving the Situ family mean? Is mom leaving, or is she leaving him? The female staff member who asked the question noticed the little guy hadn't responded for a long time. Seeing his panicked expression, her heart tightened. Just as she was about to say something, she saw the little one suddenly wiggle his bottom, slide off the sofa, and dash over to them with little footsteps. The three of them were stunned, then immediately felt the little guy tugging at the corners of their clothes. With one small hand, he struggled to grab the corners of two people's clothes. Once he had a firm grip, he began pulling them outward with all his might. The three had no choice but to stand up and follow him, walking outside as he intended, until he managed to drag the three people out of the door bit by bit. Situ Xiaoye finally breathed a sigh of relief, turned around, and quickly ran back home. Like a little cannonball, he dashed into Jiang Qianxia's bewildered gaze and threw himself beside her, smoothly burrowing into her arms. After 2 days of sending the little one to kindergarten, Jiang Qianxia instinctively raised her hand to hold the little guy's back, afraid he might fall, even in her dazed state. What is going on here? Jiang Qianxia blinked her eyes. The little one's actions also left Situ stunned. He too wanted to know what was happening before his eyes. Although he didn't see Xiaoyi often, he knew this child was different from ordinary kids. He wasn't the type to be affectionate, and even his mother, Zhu Qing, might not receive such closeness. Moreover, the child was somewhat withdrawn, gloomy, and didn't seem to need much companionship. So, was this little one nestled in the woman's arms, wearing a sweet smile on his face, really Xiaoyi? Outside the door, the three home visit staff who had been pushed out by the 3-year-old child were equally dumbfounded. Fortunately, Satuyu secretly took a deep breath, suppressed his doubts, and instructed the maid to invite them back in. After re-entering, the three home visit staff saw Situ Xiaoya clinging to Jiang Qianxia's arms and were deeply shocked. This is the stepmother? However, the next scene left them even more dumbfounded. They sent out the most approachable woman to once again explain their identity to Situ Xiaoya and ask if they could talk. Unexpectedly, this time Situ Xiaoya responded. However, the response was to cling tightly to Jiang Qianxia's neck and shake his head desperately. Seeing this, the three home visit staff fell silent instantly. It was fine when there was nothing unusual, but now, seeing the child's abnormal behavior, the three couldn't help but feel suspicious. Could it be that this child was coached on the way here? Thinking about the father's indifferent attitude toward him earlier, the three visitors secretly observed Situ, their eyes revealing doubt. Could the reputation of a wealthy family truly matter more than the feelings of a child? Noticing the subtle expressions of the three, Situ's brow twitched slightly. He said in a deep voice, Xiaoya? Situ Xiaoya heard this, pursed his lips, and turned to look at him with a longing gaze, but he had no intention of letting go of Jiang Qianxia's small hand. For some reason, the child's pitiful gaze softened Situ's heart. He averted his eyes and looked at the three staff members. If you have any questions, ask me directly. Jiang Qianxia blinked. Oh, you scared me. I thought this iceberg was going to scold the child, but turns out he's protective. Ha ha ha. Situ's breathing subtly faltered, but he didn't show it. Looking at the three people in front of him, who appeared troubled yet forced themselves to agree, his expression grew even colder. These three clearly had a sense of being compelled against their will. Jiang Qianxia also noticed this scene and couldn't help but laugh wildly in her heart. Ha ha ha. The expressions on these three people are so amusing. They must think I'm mistreating the little one, while Situ knows the truth. For the sake of the family's reputation, he has no choice but to use his power to force them to keep quiet. Let me take a look at their faces. This man is cunning and opportunistic. He will definitely compromise. This young lady has a strong sense of justice, but she might remain silent for the sake of job stability. Hey, this young lady is great. Strong sense of justice, flexible, and has online connections. Hiss. Doesn't that mean what Situ wants to suppress will definitely be exposed? It really is a good opportunity. Should I take the chance to leave? If the news of me abusing my stepson gets exposed, even if Situ knows the truth, the rest of the Situ family won't tolerate a daughter-in-law with a ruined reputation. As she was thinking, Jiang Qianxia suddenly felt the little hands around her neck tighten again. Her train of thought was interrupted, and she sighed. No, if I have to leave, I can't do it with a tarnished name. It's not worth it. Hearing her inner thoughts, Situ's gaze turned cold. Looking at the three coerced confessions home visit personnel in front of him, he raised his hand and lifted the little cub from Jiang Qianxia's arms. The little one, completely defenseless, was picked up and placed on the coffee table. Situ Xiaoya's expression initially changed, but upon realizing it was his father who had lifted him, he became flustered. Meeting the child's clear and bewildered eyes, Situ's expression softened slightly. He patiently said to him, answer the uncle and aunt's questions properly, understand? As he spoke, he noticed the little one casting a reluctant glance toward Jiang Qianxia. Suddenly, a sense of doubt arose in his heart. He suspected that the little one could actually hear this woman's inner thoughts. This would explain why, just as the woman thought about leaving, the little one clung to her tightly. It also explains why, on that day, he ran away shouting for help. I'm afraid that whatever messy thoughts this woman had in her mind were overheard by Xiaoya. Situ's heart stirred, and he fixed his gaze on the little one. Answer seriously, only then will everything you're worried about not happen, understand? Situ Xiaoya's pupils dilated again. Does dad know what he's thinking? He met his father's deep, dark eyes, and Situ Xiaoya immediately believed him. He obediently turned around, fixed his gaze on the three strangers with peculiar expressions, and nodded reservedly at them, signaling them to go ahead and ask. The three couldn't help but exchange glances again. This, Situ, who had little patience for irrelevant people, said impatiently, is there anything else you want to ask? ask. No, no, no. The three of them were shaking their heads so hard they almost looked like rattles. Ha ha ha. It's over. I feel like I can't clear my name now. Jiang Qianxia's inner voice once again drew the father and son's attention. Jiang Qianxia calmly met their gaze while feeling speechless inside. Great. Now in the eyes of these three, even Situ has become a heartless father, not only helping to cover up the stepmother's abuse but also threatening him. Oh my god, should I explain? But, as a suspect, anything I say will probably just make things worse. Thinking of this, Jiang Qianxia relaxed slightly and leaned back on the sofa. Forget it, just give up. Let's see how the kid performs. After hearing her colorful inner thoughts, Situ. So now he's also a suspect, and it's hard to explain. Inexplicably, he felt influenced by Jiang Qianxia and couldn't help but lean slightly against the sofa. Forget it, let the kid handle it. Although he didn't understand, the little cub, who had suddenly taken on a sense of responsibility, secretly glanced at his parents. Identical giving up posture, took a deep breath, and looked at the three home visit staff with a resolute, do-or-die expression. The three home visit staff? But they still nervously followed the procedure and asked Situ Xiaoya questions. For example, do you like daddy? Situ Xiaoya nodded frantically. Situ was momentarily stunned. Then do you like your mom? The mom behind you? To be precise, the home visit staff cautiously added. Situ Xiaoya was initially stunned, then glanced at Jiang Qianxia. His eyes curved as he nodded enthusiastically. Jiang Qianxia was momentarily stunned, then smiled. Ah, the little one's affection truly has a healing power. Then, the home visit personnel asked some common questions. No domestic violence or abuse was found, but a new issue was revealed. In this family, the father has been absent for long periods, and the baby rarely sees him, being almost entirely cared for by the nanny. However, in the past 2 days, he has been having breakfast with his stepmother, and sometimes she even takes him to kindergarten. Even though the little boy didn't say anything when mentioning his mother taking him to kindergarten, a proud expression appeared on his face. Everyone present noticed it. He really likes the stepmother. After the interview ended, all the adults and children present breathed a sigh of relief. 3 home visit staff, so it wasn't fake. Jiang Qianxia / Situ, our reputation is saved. Situ Xiaoya, mom won't leave, right? Situ Xiaoya's heart tightened as he firmly held Jiang Qianxia's hand, nervously wanting to watch these 3 adults, who might cause his mother to leave, walk out the door before he could feel at ease. When one of the gentlest sisters suddenly turned back, Situ Xiaoya's heart tightened again. What was she going to do? His small hand gripped even tighter, fearing she might say something and take his mother away. Then, he heard the older sister muster up her courage and say to the father, Mr. Situ, although I know I might be overstepping, I still want to say that a child's physical and mental health cannot thrive without the companionship of their parents. Loving a child is not just about providing material wealth. Companionship is equally important. It's clear that the little one really loves their parents and deeply longs for your presence. Situ froze for a moment. The male home visit staff's expression changed, and he quickly pulled the girl who had spoken aside and bowed deeply to Situ. Sorry, Mr. Situ, she was being immature and spoke out of turn. After saying this, he didn't dare meet Situ's gaze. Pulling the girl along, he said as they walked away, we'll leave right away. We won't disturb you any further. After the 3 visitors had left, Situ lowered his head and looked at Situ Xiaoya tightly holding Jiang Qianxia's hand. He met the little one's longing eyes with a thoughtful expression, his heart softening. He looked up and gazed at the woman with a bewildered expression. They make a valid point. Situ had always believed he was not a child who needed companionship, so when he was forced to become a father, he did not realize the weight of responsibility. Situ Xiaoyi exhibited psychological symptoms, and he quickly sought out the best doctor to treat him. He even accepted an arranged marriage for the sake of this child, and his nominal wife was merely to provide the child with a complete family. He was sober-minded and aware of his own indifference. Therefore, emotions had never been a part of his life plan. Giving this child a seemingly complete family was the utmost he could do. But these familiar-looking eyes always inadvertently remind him of many seemingly forgotten memories. Since he could remember, he seemed to be unlikable, with a solitary and indifferent personality, even feared by the servants. Meanwhile, his brother was always the center of attention, gentle and smiling, easily winning everyone's affection. However, he did not feel disappointed, as most people disgusted him, foolish, noisy. He preferred hiding in a corner, enjoying his own time. But his brother always managed to find him tirelessly, looking at him with a gentler smile than he gave to others, patting his head when he wasn't paying attention, and taking him out despite his objections. But, Situ couldn't help but recall that he didn't seem to resist so much back then. His thoughts gradually returned to the present. He lowered his head and looked into Situ Xiaoya's eyes. When he smiled, he might resemble his biological mother, with eyes curving like crescent moons, but the light in them was very much like his brother's. And when this child was lonely, his gaze was very much like his own in the past. This made him instinctively want to avoid those emotions that troubled him. At that moment, a sudden thought completely shattered his train of thought. What do you mean? Parental companionship, is that what I meant? Jiang Qianxia looked at this man, who seemed to be proposing some kind of business collaboration, with a peculiar expression, and another thought popped into her mind. Is this a hint for a raise? If the price is right, it's not impossible. After all, the little one is so adorable. Jiang Qianxia secretly pinched the little one's soft, chubby cheeks and discovered that not only did the little guy not resist, but even proactively leaned his face forward. Her heart completely melted. Woo-woo, good baby, mommy's good baby. Amid the repeated calls of good baby, Situ Xiaoya completely melted, turning into a little milk bun, clinging to Jiang Qianxia's embrace. Situ, any sentiment of seeing a reflection of his own childhood in this child, instantly shattered. He secretly took a deep breath and looked away. When do you have time? We can discuss it in detail. As he spoke, he noticed Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but yawn, and thought to himself, so sleepy. The man loosened his tie and stood up. It's too late today, let's rest first. After speaking, he looked at the newly hired nanny. Take the young master to wash up and rest. After giving the instructions, he turned around, ready to leave. Unexpectedly, his sleeve was suddenly grabbed by someone. Situ turned back slightly puzzled and found Jiang Qianxia hurriedly jumping up while holding Situ Xiaoya, grabbing him. Meeting his puzzled gaze, Jiang Qianxia forced forced herself to endure her fatigue and drowsiness, awkwardly saying, "How about we talk now? I'm not sleepy, are you?" As she spoke, she blinked and looked at Sityu. "Very sleepy, but when it comes to money, I'm not sleepy at all. Moreover, it concerns my future salary. If we don't settle this, I probably won't be able to sleep tonight." Seeing Sityu remain silent, Jiang Qianxia frowned slightly. "No way. Could he be tired? I remember he's a work machine who works through the night without sleeping. It's still so early." The woman, probably too tired, forgot to maintain her composure. Disappointment was plainly visible on her face, but her delicate features appeared even more beautiful and captivating due to her weary expression. "I'm afraid no one could bear to see her disappointed." Sityu inexplicably recalled the secretary's voice in his mind, lifted his foot, and sat back down. In an instant, both pairs of eyes, one big and one small, revealed a hint of joy. Glancing at the little one who was happily following along, Sityu called the nanny over. Knowing he was about to be taken away, Sidong Xiaoya's little face showed astonishment and disappointment, but he was very obedient, pursing his lips without resisting. Sidong Yu naturally noticed the little one's expression, but for a moment, he was somewhat at a loss. He had long been accustomed to this mode of issuing orders in life, whether at home or at work, with everything running efficiently. Even his elder brother, who was doted on during childhood, was treated the same way at home. Ku Xiaoya's expression vaguely made him feel a bit uncomfortable. Jiang Qianxia noticed the little one's reluctant expression and couldn't help but purse her lips. "Tyrant, Sityu, even if I come from a place without cubs, I still know you should coax them when talking to them." "Sityu, coax? How to coax?" A trace of contemplation flashed in his eyes as he slowly dug out a vague memory from the depths of his mind. It was from when he was 5 years old. He had been unwilling to attend a family banquet, and his elder brother found him and softly said, "As long as you attend this family banquet, later when you want to be alone, I can cover for you 3 times. After weighing his options, he finally agreed. This should count as coaxing, right? But Sityu looked at the little one's troubled face with difficulty. What does he want? Fortunately, at this moment, Jiang Qianxia's inner thoughts surfaced in time. This obedient kid doesn't ask for much. At most a breakfast will cheer him up. Breakfast? Sityu recalled what the home visit staff said when leaving the villa and cleared his throat. "What time are we going to school tomorrow?" The nanny, who had just been replaced, was about to speak when the little one in her arms stretched out a chubby hand and showed an 8. Sityu looked at the chubby hand and said sternly, "Be good and go back to sleep. I'm free tomorrow morning and we'll have breakfast at home. I'll accompany you for breakfast." Such words, he couldn't bring himself to say, but this was enough to make the little cub's eyes light up and leave satisfied. Seeing how easily the little cub was coaxed, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but shake her head inwardly. Tisk tsk. Human cubs are indeed easy to fool. I'm different though. Just as she was thinking, she suddenly met a pair of inquisitive eyes. She quickly straightened her posture and slightly raised her chin. The negotiation momentum must not be lost. "Say what you want to discuss." Jiang Qianxia tried to keep her voice calm. Sityu recalled the momentary relaxation in her expression earlier, and now, looking at her, he couldn't help but feel she was bluffing. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth but quickly faded. He said seriously, 2 million. 2 million, then add another 2 million, 4 million a month. Being a wealthy family's wife as a side job isn't bad. Jiang Qianxia suppressed the turmoil in her heart and tried her best to remain calm. "So, what do I need to do?" Yes, she couldn't be too happy too soon. If the workload was too heavy and delayed her main job, that would be troublesome. Sityu's lips twitched slightly. Through her inner thoughts, he already understood that the other party regarded the role of a nominal wife as a job. This was good, and he was satisfied with it. But, a side job? What was her main job? Based on his understanding of this nominal wife, she seemed to be a not-so-famous minor celebrity. Could that really be her main job? Could such a lousy job even be called a main job? For a moment, a wave of dissatisfaction surged in Sityu's heart, and he decided to up the stakes. 2 million a month. Have breakfast with Xiaoya. Calculated based on legal working days, 20 days a month. After speaking, seeing Jiang Qianxia's surprised expression, he felt secretly pleased and continued to raise the stakes. 2 million a month. Have dinner with Xiaoya. Still based on legal working days, 20 days a month. Accordingly, as long as I'm not delayed by business trips or necessary work, I will also participate in this companionship activity. His eyes sparkled with satisfaction as he looked at Jiang Qianxia's incredulous expression, feeling secretly pleased. Do you have any additional comments or suggestions? You can bring them up now. Of course not. The only suggestion is to sign the contract now, immediately, to avoid any unforeseen complications. Sityu was about to show a satisfied expression when he suddenly heard her voice. But how can cooperation be finalized in one discussion? If I agree too quickly, wouldn't that let the other party grasp my bottom line? This won't do, won't do, won't do. Sityu, as expected of you. After some thought, Jiang Qianxia finally looked seriously at Sityu. This contract doesn't seem to have any restrictions on you? Sityu was momentarily stunned. Although he had already gained some understanding of her audacity, he was still shocked by her shamelessness. However, such a small matter was easy to resolve. How about this? I'll give you the right to supervise me. If I can't accompany you for non-objective reasons, I'll compensate you with 100,000. After saying this, he couldn't help but wonder if this woman would start praying for him not to come home. However, Jiang Qianxia shook her head seriously. No, the one you should compensate is not me, but your son. Sityu was slightly stunned, but seeing her serious expression, he decided to keep listening. Although I don't know why, you seem quite indifferent to children, but since you've decided to take responsibility, you should think more long-term. Halfway through her words, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but pause. After confirming there were no maids around, she lowered her voice and said, I will eventually leave the Sityu family. After I leave, whether you want to find a wife you truly love or a new nominal wife, to Sityu Xiaoya, you are the irreplaceable one, aren't you? After hearing her words, Sityu fell into deep thought. In fact, there were two reasons why he proposed the breakfast and dinner agreement. One was was that he indeed felt Xiaoya needed companionship, and the other was his curiosity about Jiang Qianxia's inner thoughts. But at this moment, he suddenly felt that he should take this issue more seriously. Since he had chosen to accept Xiaoya, he should strive to be a good father. As for Jiang Qianxia, after speaking, she couldn't help but feel a wave of regret in her heart. She had actually convinced herself. Sigh, that's right. Shouldn't I have agreed? After all, I will leave the Situ family sooner or later. If I develop feelings for the little guy, won't it be even harder to leave? Sure enough, a nominal stepmother actually began to develop a sense of responsibility. Situ's heart grew increasingly moved, but when he carefully observed Jiang Qianxia, he noticed her gaze suddenly became resolute. But that's a living 6 million. At worst, I'll just hold on for a while longer, as long as I leave before the plot unfolds. As for the little one, I just need to cultivate the bond between this father and son to be deeper than mine, that's all. Besides, the feelings cultivated with 6 million a month can certainly enjoy after-sales service. Yes, that's right. Jiang Qianxia, you can absolutely do it. See to you. Suddenly, he felt that his emotional reaction a minute ago seemed somewhat foolish. He took a light breath and asked Jiang Qianxia expressionlessly, so, do you have any good suggestions regarding compensation? At the mention of this, Jiang Qianxia's spirits instantly lifted. Although I don't have experience with raising kids, I read plenty of adorable child novels in the previous world. Those weren't read in vain. Obviously a child lacking love, but what they really lack is companionship. Situ was stunned for a moment. A child lacking love? Xiaoyi, does this count as lacking love? Thinking of his gentle and refined elder brother, Situ couldn't imagine him as a father. But suddenly, he couldn't help but wonder, if his elder brother were still around, would Xiaoya's life be different? Surely it will. But does Xiaoya really lack love now? Situ looked at the woman whose eyes were lively like a young girl yet seemed to see through everything, and couldn't help but feel a slight urge to confide. His expression rarely showed a hint of confusion. Do you think Xiaoya lacks love? Jiang Qianxia glanced at him somewhat inexplicably. When her gaze met his, she quickly restrained herself and nodded seriously. Of course. Thinking she might not understand enough, Situ slowly began to explain. The Situ family's business has always been passed down only to the legitimate eldest son, not to the younger ones, nor to those born of concubines. This is the iron rule of the family, aimed at avoiding conflicts among brothers. The eldest son of the Situ family is held to strict standards in both character and ability. He must be the most outstanding among his generation, maintain self-discipline, and his words and actions must represent the dignity of the Situ family, and so on. The other children must not have a competitive mindset, must not stand out, and must not bring shame to the family. Children who can assist the eldest son must possess only mediocre talent. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to interfere in the family business. All of this is to prevent a situation where the eldest son is not outstanding enough and power is seized by other sons. After speaking, seeing Jiang Qianxia indeed stunned, Situ continued, however, even though my elder brother Situ Yunxiao is unparalleled in excellence, I, the second son, deemed mediocre, still had to endure suppressive education. They wanted me to restrain my brilliance, extinguish my ambition, and forever serve as my brother's support. Jiang Qianxia opened her mouth in shock, incredulous. So, you left the Situ family, started your own company, and didn't even get any support from your family? Situ's gaze was indifferent, as if he were recounting someone else's story. However, Jiang Qianxia's reaction was, oh my gosh, so tragic, but also so impressive. Expelled from a wealthy family, starting from scratch, and becoming a tycoon yourself. Comparison is the thief of joy. On December 9, 2023, I, Jiang Qianxia, have officially been diagnosed as a failure. Her heart was already leaping, as if performing a spinning kick to the earth, yet outwardly she still maintained a look of astonishment. Situ's mouth twitched, and he suddenly found it hard to continue. But upon seeing her eager and curious gaze, he still went on, actually, the person most eager to change me is my mother, Zhu Qing. 3 years ago, after my elder brother passed away, the first person she suspected was me. He spoke as calmly as if recounting someone else's story. Jiang Qianxia frowned slightly, her expression growing more complex. Zhu Qing. I only dealt with her once, but I could already guess her hysteria behind closed doors. Even though they are all her sons, the favoritism she shows is even worse than the treatment I endured in the Jiang family. Sigh. Fortunately, Situyu has a strong mind. Situyu had never confided these things to anyone. His life had always been a solitary journey. This was the first time he encountered someone willing to face these matters with him. He awkwardly averted his gaze, feeling somewhat relieved that Jiang Qianxia didn't show any sympathy, or else he might not have been able to continue speaking. He cleared his throat and looked out at the dense night outside the window. After my elder brother passed away, my grandfather found me and expressed his hope that I would take over the Situi family's business. I refused, and that's how the engagement came about. But mother didn't know I had refused, so she hurriedly brought out a child and told me, this is the bloodline of your elder brother. Jiang Qianxia was completely stunned. This child is Xiaoyi? Situyu nodded. Under Jiang Qianxia's incredulous gaze, he closed his eyes, exhaled, and revealed everything. Mother's intention was that I could temporarily take over the Situ family, but once Xiaoyi grows up, I must return the Situ family to my elder brother's child. The Situ family will always belong to my elder brother. Speaking, Situyu revealed a rare smile on his face, but it was self-deprecating. Do you think, with such pampering, Xiaoya would lack love? Jiang Qianxia was momentarily speechless. No wonder in the plot, Situ Xiaoya gave the Situ family to the female lead, but you didn't appear. But the little guy probably does lack love, though it's not the right time to say this now. Do you have any concerns? Situyu asked her. Jiang Qianxia didn't expect him to be so perceptive, but after thinking for a moment, she decided to tell the truth. So Xiao Zai and Xiao Yi are your elder brother's sons. Why did you adopt him? Was it because of your mother's coercion? Upon hearing this, Situyu's expression was initially indifferent, but then softened. My elder brother treated me very well. So it's because of your elder brother? Jiang Qianxia was somewhat puzzled. Seeing her innocent eyes wide open, showing genuine confusion, Situyu tugged at the corner of his mouth, a hint of coldness flashing in his eyes. If I don't adopt Xiaoya, my mother will support a collateral relative to adopt him. Then why are you uneasy about it? Jiang Qianxia continued to ask,